Chapter 978. 978 Die's Threat. As soon as he said that, it was as if a bomb had been dropped, and the entire audience was in an uproar. What? How is it possible that Lu Ming is the successor of Emperor Kang? Emperor Kang has disappeared for 3,000 years. Rumor has it that he died while wandering overseas. How could Lu Ming be the successor of Emperor Kang? Could it be that Emperor Liao Kang is still alive? Everyone was in shock. Someone even suggested that Lian Kang was still alive, which shocked everyone. Emperor Liao Kang was the #1 alchemist in the Eastern Barren Territory. His art of inscription was unparalleled. If he was still alive, it would be earth-shaking news. The situation of the entire Eastern Barren Territory would change dramatically. Martial Emperor Die's eyes lit up like two divine swords, piercing the sky. His body was filled with a powerful killing intent. Lu Ming, you are Lian Kang's disciple? Martial Emperor Die spoke word by word, staring at Lu Ming with an extremely cold gaze. Lu Ming looked at Martial Emperor Die fearlessly. His hand glowed and a scroll appeared in his hand. He said, Die, look at this. Martial Emperor Die's eyes fell on the scroll in Lu Ming's hand. He said coldly, the all-formation illustration, it seems like you have really received Lian Kang's inheritance. Everyone's eyes fell on the million formation illustration, and their hearts trembled. The all-array diagram was the most powerful treasure of Emperor Liao Kang. Since Lu Ming had the all-array diagram, he must be Liao Kang's successor. The ones who were the most shocked were the elders and disciples of the Talisman sect. They stared at the Myriad array diagram in Lu Ming's hands in a daze. Their eyes were filled with excitement and disbelief. All-array diagram, Quan Zhan, Wen Zhongyi, Bai Chishue, Ji Mai, and the rest were all excited. Then, they came to a realization. They finally knew why the patriarchs of the Talisman Amulet sect had chosen Lu Ming as a Zongzi candidate. It was because he was the inheritor of the divine cultivator Kang. Master, is Grandmaster Lian Kang still alive? Bai Chishue asked Bai Shijin with a trembling voice. Grandmaster Lian Kang won't be coming back. Bai Shijin sighed. Bai Shijin then looked at Martial Emperor Die again and said, Die, Lu Ming is the successor of Grandmaster Liao Kang. He is the Zongzi of the Talisman Amulet sect. You have harmed Grandmaster Liao Kang. Is it possible for us to hand Lu Ming over to you? Boom. 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 His words were even more shocking. It was like a thunderclap that resounded in everyone's mind. Emperor Liao Kang was actually killed by Martial Emperor Die. At this moment, not only were the people of the Talisman Amulet sect shocked, but the disciples, elders, and even supremes of the other three sects, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, the Sky Demon Valley, and the Heavenly Corpse sect, were also shocked. In the past, almost everyone believed that Emperor Liao Kang had died while adventuring overseas. This was because in the Divine Wilderness continent, it was extremely difficult to advance after reaching the martial royal realm. To a sovereign realm expert, the Divine Wilderness continent was too small and the environment was too poor. It was not suitable for cultivation. If he wanted to continue improving, he would have to head overseas and search for a bigger continent with better conditions to cultivate on. In history, there were many emperors who went overseas to cultivate and risk their lives, but they ended up dying overseas. Everyone thought that Emperor Liao Kang had died overseas because of this. He had never expected that Martial Emperor Die had secretly harmed him. In this case, the Talisman sect and Martial Emperor Die were mortal enemies. How could they hand Lu Ming over to Die? Die, did you really kill Lian Kang? You're so scheming. What do you want to do? The Demon Emperor of Sky Demon Valley stood up and stared at Die with hostility. Corpse Chi rolled around the Corpse Emperor, but he didn't say anything. Demon Emperor, you're being too nosy. Why do I need to explain anything to you? Martial Emperor Die glanced at the Demon Emperor coldly. He was extremely domineering and did not give the Demon Emperor any face at all. Then, he turned to look at Lu Ming, then at Bai Shijin and the rest. Since that's the case, the symbol puppet sect shall be destroyed. With that, Die turned around and strode away. He stepped into the teleportation vortex and disappeared. Tempage, Lu Ming, I'll let you live for the time being, but let's see how long you can live for. The master of the Wang family glared at Lu Ming coldly and turned to leave. At this moment, a figure flew out from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and into the Talisman Amulet sect's territory. It was Wang Haoxian. Evil creature, what are you doing? Get back here. Shut up. The master of the Wang family shouted. If I go back to the Wang family, I'll definitely be in a miserable state. Why should I go back with you? Wang Haoxian's face darkened. Even if she were to die, she would never return to the Wang family. She knew very well that if she were to return to the Wang family this time, she would definitely be in a miserable state. Lu Ming took a few steps forward to Wang Haoxian's side and said, "There's no need to go back, come with me to the Talisman Amulet sect." Evil creature, you dare to betray the family? The patriarch of the Wang clan berated. Ha ha ha, Wang Shengtian, this girl will not have a good ending if she goes back. Only an idiot would go back with you. Yang Guangtu laughed and said, my brother is really something. He even managed to seduce the heaven's favorite of your Wang clan. Wang Shengtian, do you feel good now? Ha ha. Damn it. The patriarch of the Wang clan roared. His face was flushed red and he almost vomited blood. Evil creature, you dare to betray the family. Sooner or later, I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Let's see who can protect you. Shut up. The master of the Wang family shouted. He no longer had the face to stay and strode away, stepping into the teleportation vortex. Let's go, we're also going back. Bai Shijin and the others shouted. Immediately, everyone from the Talisman Amulet sect stepped into the teleportation vortex and returned to the sect. The people of the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Heavenly Demon Valley had also left. The Battle of Providence had finally come to an end. Lu Ming stepped into the vortex. There was a flash of light and he was back at the entrance of the Talisman Amulet sect. As soon as he returned to the Talisman Amulet sect, Lu Ming took to the air. As expected, he saw a group of people not far away. Lu Ming was overjoyed and immediately flew over. Father, mother, Lu Ming shouted. Lu Ming's parents, Lu Yuntian, and Li Ping were among the crowd. There was also Lin Shui, the sect leader of the mystical sword sect, as well as some elders and disciples. There were also Hua Kai, Pang Shu, and the rest. Lu Ming's two in-name disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro, were also there. Previously, Lu Ming had secretly passed the mountain and river diagram to Bai Shijin to ask for his help to head to the Blazing Sun Empire and bring his parents and some close friends to the Talisman Amulet sect. He knew that after the Battle of Providence, Martial Emperor Di would most likely attack him and not let him off. It was too dangerous for his family and friends to be in the territory of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Lu Ming could only be at ease if he brought them to the Talisman Amulet sect. The Supreme Being was rushing at full speed, and his speed was terrifying. It only took him 1 or 2 hours to pick up the person. Now, Lu Ming was finally at ease. Buzz. Before Lu Ming arrived, a figure rushed toward him and landed on his shoulder. It was Dandan. Just now, luck was on your side. Lu Ming, I saw that your parents got the most. Lu Ming, what rank did you get? Dandan asked. Lu Ming got first place. Behind him, Bai Shijing, Yang Guangtu, and the rest stepped into the air and answered on Lu Ming's behalf. As expected, not bad, kid. You have some of my style back in the day, Dandan said proudly. Chapter 979. 979 The benefits of having luck attached to one's body. Ming-er. At this moment, Lu Yuntian, Li Ping, and the others also saw Lu Ming and surrounded him. Father, mother, you've worked hard, Lu Ming said. Then, he greeted Lin Shui, Hua Kai, and the others. Disciple greets master. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro knelt down to pay their respects to Lu Ming. Stand up and let me see your cultivation. Lu Ming raised his hand slightly and the siblings were lifted up by a force. Yes, I've broken through to the Martial King realm. Not bad. Lu Ming took a quick glance and realized that both of them had reached the Martial King realm. On the side, Many people were also sizing up Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Shiro curiously. They did not expect that the two young men and women were actually Lu Ming's disciples. After that, the two siblings bowed to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The two elders quickly helped the two of them up and were overjoyed. Since he was Lu Ming's disciple, they naturally treated him as their own child. "Father, mother, let's talk as we walk. We'll also arrange a place for you to stay." Lu Ming waved his hand, and a majestic true essence spread out. A cloud seemed to have appeared under Lu Yuntian and the others' feet, lifting them off the ground and flying forward. There were thousands of people. They were all lifted up by Lu Ming's essential core and flew in the air. Lin Shuyi and the rest were shocked. They knew that Lu Ming's current realm had exceeded their imagination and had reached a terrifying level. The group of people chatted as they flew, and their speed was not very fast. As for Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other elders, they had already gone ahead to arrange accommodation for Lu Yuntian and the others as well as to make other preparations. On the way, Lu Yuntian, Lin Shuyi, Hua Kai, and the others also learned that Lu Ming had won first place in the Battle of Providence. Although they did not know what the War of Providence was, they were still shocked when they heard that Lu Ming had suppressed the younger generation of the East Baron and stood at the top of the younger generation. Compared to the vast Eastern Baron territory, the Burning Sun Empire was too small. It was like a grain of sand thrown into the sea. They could not imagine how many geniuses there were in the entire East Baron and what level they had reached. But now, Lu Ming had surpassed all of them and stood at the peak of all the proud sons of heaven. How could they not be shocked? He was secretly pleased with himself. Lu Ming was someone who had come from the Blazing Sun Empire. They did not ask Lu Ming why he brought them here. They knew that Lu Ming definitely did it for their own good. There was no one who was reluctant to part with their foundation, because all they could see here were magnificent rivers and mountains. Some places were unimaginably rich in heaven and earthling qi. Compared to them, the Burning Sun Empire was like a garbage dump, a wild land. There was no way to compare. And those experts, any one of them gave them a feeling of unfathomability. A place like this was much, much better than the Burning Sun Empire. This was normal. Mount Liangyi was a famous blessed land in the East Baron. It spanned tens of millions of miles and had countless blessed lands. Some of the talisman puppet sect disciples didn't care about it, but in the eyes of Lin Shuyi, Hua Kai, and the others, it was a priceless treasure. Some people's eyes were already shining. How fast would their progress be if they cultivated in such an environment? Lu Ming brought everyone around. Not long after, an elder came and said that everyone's accommodation had been arranged. Lu Ming led the group and followed the elder. The rest of the talisman sect members left one by one. Only Bai Chishue, Fatty, and Ruan Tingting were following him. First, it was the residence of the mystical sword sect. It was a mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles. On top of it were 7 huge mountain peaks that pierced the sky. It was extremely magnificent. On it, spiritual qi was faintly discernible, and spiritual medicine was everywhere. It was like a fairyland. Compared to the mountain gate of the mystical sword sect, it was tens or even hundreds of times better. Lin Shuyi and the rest were overjoyed. They kept thanking the talisman sect's elder. The elder knew that these were Lu Ming's close friends and they had an extraordinary relationship. Naturally, he did not dare to thank them. After that, Lin Shuyi brought the thousands of people from the mystical sword sect to stay. Of course, there were more people in the mystical sword sect. Those who didn't want to come were not brought along. Those with low cultivation and talent were dismissed. Those who were brought along were those with high cultivation and talent. Master Lin, there are countless people on Mount Liangyi, but not all of them cultivate the Tao of Inscription. Some of them are not suitable for the Tao of Inscription, but those who are suitable for martial arts can be selected as disciples by the mystical sword sect in the future, Lu Ming said with a smile. The Yin and Yang mountain stretched for thousands of miles. Not all of them were disciples of the talisman sect. There were also countless mortals living in some flat territories, and some of them had even established countries. After all, it stretched for tens of millions of miles. It was simply too vast, as large as some small-scale regions. After that, he bade farewell to Lin Shui and the others. He flew for hundreds of thousands of miles to arrange a place for Hua Kai and the other members of the Burning Sun Empire. This place was not the slightest bit inferior to the mystical sword sect. After that, it was the Lu family's residence. There were fewer people from the Lu family. They were arranged to stay on a huge mountain peak. The heaven and earth spiritual qi on this peak was extremely rich. It was the best on the Yin and Yang mountain. There were many palaces built on it, just enough for people to live in. Zhuang Xiaorou and Zhuang Xiaoshan were temporarily staying with the Lu family. After making all the arrangements, Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief and felt at ease. He then chatted with Lu Ming and Yun Tian about their experiences during this period of time. A few hours later, Lu Ming returned to the Cloud Peak residence and sat cross-legged in his room. With luck on his side, he had yet to properly sense what benefits he had obtained. He sat cross-legged and circulated the True War Dragon technique. However, he stopped after a while. This was because he felt that his body was completely normal. There was no change compared to before. The only change was that he was more focused and his thinking was more flexible. Lu Ming, try to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth. On his shoulder, Dandan was holding a spirit herb and gnawing on it, her mouth full of medicinal fragrance. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he began to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth. When Lu Ming calmed down, he immediately felt that his mind was extremely clear. The artistic conception of the heaven and earth around him was also extremely clear. It was as if his thoughts had become one with the entire heaven and earth. The speed at which I can comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth is 10 times faster than before. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. At this moment, he did not use the path understanding ancient tree, but the speed at which he comprehended concepts was so terrifying that it shocked Lu Ming. Do you feel it? With fate in your body, it won't change your body or your cultivation, but it will greatly increase your comprehension and become more compatible with the heavens and earth. In the future, whether it's comprehending intent or anything higher, you'll be like a fish in water. Of course, it's also faster to comprehend other martial arts techniques. Dandan explained. It can actually change one's perception. Then my power of comprehension has increased by 10 times. Lu Ming's heart beat faster and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. Everyone's comprehension was fixed. It could be said that they were born with it. It was a kind of talent. He did not expect that Lu Ming's current comprehension could be improved. This was too shocking. Chapter 980. 980 Official Zongzi. Lu Ming, how much has your comprehension improved? Dandan asked. About 10 times. Lu Ming said. What? 10 times? Dandan directly jumped up from Lu Ming's shoulder, her face full of shock. Nest, I'm so envious. It actually increased tenfold all of a sudden. This means that you will be able to comprehend anything 10 times faster in the future. I'm so envious. Dandan shouted. Is 10 times that much? Lu Ming said. He had the path understanding ancient tree. With the help of the path understanding ancient tree, the speed at which he comprehended concepts was more than 10 times faster. Kid, what do you know? This is your own comprehension ability and the improvement of your foundation. How can the path understanding ancient tree compare to it? Let me tell you, in the short term, you have the path understanding ancient tree and even the devouring talent of the 9 dragons, but it doesn't seem to be of much use to the improvement of comprehension. But when your realm is higher, you will know how much use it is. Dandan began to ramble on. The path understanding ancient tree has its limits. Its principle is to be in harmony with heaven and earth. It can emit the aura of the great path. At a lower level, the effect is naturally good, but there is a limit. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, the things you need to comprehend are many times higher than the intent realm of heaven and earth. The effect of the path understanding ancient tree will be small. The 9 dragons' devouring talent is even more so. You should be able to devour other people's intent runes and improve your intent, right? However, level 4 is the limit of the will of heaven and earth. The next step is the domain of the martial royal realm, which is not a will rune. It has no physical body, So the 9 dragons devouring talent can't devour it at all. If you want to improve it, you have to comprehend it yourself. Now, do you know how precious it is to improve your comprehension? After saying that, Dandan looked at Lu Ming. I see. Lu Ming thought to himself that the 9 dragons devouring talent was not omnipotent. After becoming a martial emperor, one's intent could be transformed into a domain, and it could not be improved by devouring. One had to comprehend it on their own. Lu Ming finally understood how precious it was to improve his comprehension. This was a talent that would follow him for a lifetime. Lu Ming, you're more in tune with this world now. If you break through to the rank of a martial emperor one day, it'll be easier for you to cultivate than others. This is your advantage, Dandan said again. Above martial emperor? There was a look of anticipation in Lu Ming's eyes, but he then shook his head. That realm was too far away from him. What he had to do now was to take it one step at a time and break through to the spiritual god realm as soon as possible. Only those at the spiritual god realm could be considered as the top experts in the divine wilderness continent. Then, Lu Ming closed his eyes and began to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth. At this moment, the news that Lu Ming had won first place in the Battle of Providence had spread throughout the entire Mount Liangyi. The entire Mount Liangyi was in shock and ecstasy. After so many years, someone from the Talisman sect had finally won first place in the Battle of Providence and obtained great providence. Many people remembered that there was a rainbow light from the sky above Mount Liangyi. Some light scattered, which might be the result of the descent of fate. Some of them were even inspired by the good fortune and broke through to the next realm. They were extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's name once again shocked Mount Liangyi. Then, at a terrifying speed, it spread to the entire eastern wilderness and covered it. Time flew by and 2 days passed. One day, Fatty and Ruan Tingting went to look for Lu Ming. Lu Ming, Master came to look for us. He said he'll take us to cultivate. We're leaving. The Fatty bade farewell to Lu Ming. Fatty, this is a good thing. Help me thank Senior Mo Tian, Lu Ming said with a smile. Ari. Lu Ming, I wanted to stay and help you deal with the Emperor Sky Divine Palace, but my master, that old man, is very unyielding this time. He wants me to go with him. Timpage, I knew it. That old man is afraid of Di. When he saw Di's original body, he didn't dare to say anything. Fatty said unhappily. Fatty, don't worry. This is Mount Liangyi. With the yin-yang sky formation, Di can't enter. Practice well. Don't be completely crushed by me next time, Lu Ming said with a smile. Don't worry, the next time we meet, I'll definitely catch up to you. The Fatty grinned. Fatty, take this opportunity. Tingting is a good girl, don't let her run away. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to the Fatty. The Fatty blushed and sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Don't worry, what kind of person am I? How can the woman I like escape from my grasp? The next time I see you, I'll definitely make you my uncle. Hey, damn Fatty, what are you guys secretly talking about? Ruan Tingting glared at Fatty with hostility. No, nothing much. The fat man's expression changed and he shook his head. Lu Ming, we're leaving. Take care. Ruan Tingting bade Lu Ming farewell. Take care. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Then, Fatty and Ruan Tingting turned around and left. A day later, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and the other elders of the Talisman Amulet sect informed the Liangyi Mountain of the Talisman Amulet sect that Lu Ming was to be the Zongzi of the Talisman Amulet sect. He was an official Zongzi, not a Zongzi candidate. He would be in charge of the Talisman Amulet sect in the future. This time, no one objected. Even Huan Zhan, Wen Zongzi and the other Zongzi candidates stood out to support Lu Ming. This time, Lu Ming had won first place in the Battle of Providence, accumulating great fortune for the Talisman Amulet sect. Moreover, the news that Lu Ming was the successor of Emperor Liao Kang had already spread. It was perfectly justifiable for Lu Ming to be promoted to a Zongzi. No one else was more suitable than him. There were many people who were blessed with good luck and benefited from it. They were grateful to Lu Ming and supported him. Lu Ming had become the Zongzi of the Talisman sect. In the center of 9 dragons, where the dragon veins of the 9 dragons converged, Martial Emperor Di sat at the head of a huge hall. More than a dozen people stood below him, including the masters of the 6 ancient families. Apart from the 6 great ancient families, the other people all had powerful auras, as deep as the ocean, and unfathomable. They were all supreme-level figures. The talisman amulet sect will be destroyed. 6 great aristocratic families, Di Tian Imperial Guards, immediately gather your men and attack the talisman amulet sect. Martial Emperor Di gave the order. Yes. All the supreme martial artists acknowledged the order in unison. This time, I will personally lead the troops. Martial Emperor Di's voice was heard. In the residence of Hua Kai and the others on Mount Liangyi, Lu Ming, Hua Kai, and Pang Shi sat at a table, drinking and chatting. It was as if they had returned to the days when they had cultivated together in the mystical sword sect. The 3 of them had not had a drink together for many years. Back in the mystical sword sect, Lu Ming was only 15 years old. Now, he was already 23 years old. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 8 years had passed. The 3 of them were no longer young and inexperienced youths. They had already entered the age of youth. Right now, Pang Shi's body was extremely burly and muscular. He was more than 2 meters tall, and his aura was wild. His cultivation had already reached the half-step king realm, and he was only 1 step away from the king realm. This level of cultivation was already considered top tier in the Blazing Sun Empire. Hua Kai was busy with political affairs and had a slightly weaker cultivation. He was at the 9th level of Wu Zong. Chapter 981. 981 Chapter 981 Inquiry. Hua Kai, I've dragged you into this because of me. You've abandoned the Burning Sun Empire and come to Mount Liangyi. Come, I'll drink this as punishment. Lu Ming picked up the glass and drank it in one go. Lu Ming, don't say that. The Blazing Sun Empire is so small. You won't be able to achieve anything there. The spiritual energy in the heaven and earth at Mount Liangyi is more than 100 times stronger than that of the Blazing Sun Empire. Moreover, the elites of the Blazing Sun Empire are all here. When your cultivation improves in the future, you'll have countless Blazing Sun Empires. Hua Kai laughed heartily. In the world of martial Dao, everything is fake. Only cultivation and strength are real. I used to be busy with political affairs and neglected cultivation. From now on, I'll work hard on cultivation. Hua Kai raised his wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Although the Blazing Sun Empire had been conquered by the ancestors of the Hua family, now that he had stepped out of the Blazing Sun Empire, his horizons had been broadened. He was very clear that the Blazing Sun Empire was just a small piece of land. Without power, any spiritual ocean tier warrior in the Eastern Barren Territory could easily destroy the Blazing Sun Empire. He understood that strength was king. Hua Kai, Shitiou, there's something inside that might be useful to you. Lu Ming took out 2 storage rings and handed them to Hua Kai and Pang Shi. There were some spiritual herbs, cultivation techniques, martial arts secret manuals, various materials for spiritual weapons, etc. They were not of much use to Lu Ming, but it was good to leave them for Hua Kai and the others. Hua Kai and Pang Shi didn't decline this time and accepted it. They knew very well that Lu Ming's current realm was too high, far higher than theirs. Many things that were of no use to Lu Ming were very useful to them. Moreover, with their relationship, they would not be pretentious. In fact, before this, Lu Ming had left some things behind in the mystical sword sect and the Lu family. They were the spoils of war that he had obtained from the enemy during this period of time. To Lu Ming, they were indeed of no use. Lu Ming, let's not talk about other things. Come, let's have a drink. Hua Kai and Pang Shi raised their wine glasses. The 3 of them clinked their glasses and drank the wine in one go. Haha, Lu Ming, you might not know this, but Big Rock is already married and is about to become a father. Hua Kai laughed heartily. Really? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he smiled. Big Rock, you're amazing. When did this happen? It's a pity that I didn't know about it. Otherwise, I'd have to go and congratulate you. Pang Shi scratched his head, and a look of happiness appeared on his honest face. It happened last year. The child will be born in half a year. As she said that, she blushed slightly. Haha, look at Shi Tou, his face is red. Hua Kai laughed. Don't you know that Hua Kai has 9 concubines? He has 5 children now. Pang Shi said. 9 concubines? You already have 5 children? Lu Ming was stunned. He looked impressed and said, love-struck fool, not bad. You're so powerful. I'll punish you. I'll punish you. I'll punish you with 3 glasses. No, I'll punish you with 9 glasses. Sigh, I had no choice. Those ministers are urging me to have an heir as soon as possible. I had no choice. Hua Kai's face was bitter as he drank a few cups of wine. Lu Ming and Pang Shi laughed. Lu Ming, what about you? We're already ahead of you, so you have to work hard. Pang Shi looked at Lu Ming with a grin. Me? Lu Ming was slightly stunned. He picked up the glass and took a sip. A few figures appeared in his mind. Chiu Yu had been taken away by an overseas expert, and no one knew where she was now. I haven't seen Mulan since I left Tianxian region. I don't know where she went. Slowly, a figure appeared in her mind. Xian Yanqing's figure. It had been a year and a half since Xian Yanqing was brought back to the ancient Saint dynasty. How was he doing now? Lu Ming's thoughts were running wild. Shi Tou, you don't have to worry about Lu Ming. He's such a hero. How could he lack beauties by his side? Didn't you see that he has a few stunning beauties by his side? Hua Kai said with a smile. Yes, yes, come, let's drink. Pang Shi nodded repeatedly. Lu Ming adjusted his mood and shouted at the 2 of them. Lu Ming was very relaxed, and open-minded when he was with Hua Kai and Pang Shi. The 3 of them had known each other since they were young. They had experienced the war in the Burning Sun Empire and had gone through life and death situations. Their friendship was pure, and there were no impurities in their relationship. As the 3 of them drank, they talked about their cultivation in the mystical sword sect. Then, they talked about their experiences after that. The 3 of them drank for a few hours. Lu Ming's heart was filled with warmth. The path of cultivation was very lonely. Sometimes, one would need friends. Perhaps there was a gap between their cultivation bases, and as time passed, this gap would grow bigger and bigger. However, once they sat together and held a cup of wine, there was no gap between them. There was only pure friendship between them. After 3 rounds of wine, the 3 of them left. Lu Ming did not return to Cloud Peak residence. Instead, he headed to Yang Kuangtu's residence. When Lu Ming arrived, Yang Kuangtu was in the middle of a discussion with the 9 Suns Supreme. Lu Ming, is there anything you need us for? Supreme 9 Suns said. A token appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It was the mixed essence token that he had obtained when he had won first place in the Battle of Providence. Big Brother Yang, Senior Jiuyang, I want to ask you, what is the use of this mixed essence token? Lu Ming asked. Mixed essence token? The 9 Suns Supreme Master raised his eyebrows, and a hint of solemnity appeared on his face. Yang Kuangtu, on the other hand, seemed to be at a loss. Actually, I don't know much. It's said that in the Battle of Providence, only those who pass a certain standard can get a mixed essence token. In the past, someone in the East continent also got this kind of token, Supreme 9 Suns said. Could it be that Senior Jiuyang and Big Brother Yang didn't obtain such a token? Lu Ming asked in surprise. How talented were the 9 Suns Supreme and Yang Kuangtu? They had all participated in the Battle of Karmic Luck, so how could it be that they had never obtained such a token? No, I didn't get it, 9 Suns Supreme Master shook his head and said. Madman didn't get it either. As far as I know, some emperors didn't even get it when they were young. I've read about it in an ancient book. Only a very, very small number of extremely talented prodigies have the chance to obtain it. It's said that obtaining this token may be a great opportunity, but it may also be a great crisis. Lu Ming, did you get any news when you obtained the Primordial Chaos token? A sentence echoed in my head. It was congratulations on passing the preliminary test. There was no other information other than that. Lu Ming said. As expected. The eyes of the 9 Suns Supreme Master shone with a shocking light. Lu Ming, You've experienced the battle of providence. You should be able to sense that there's an unimaginable existence behind this battle of providence, or an unimaginable force that's controlling everything, right? The supreme martial artist of the 9 suns asked. Yes, that's true. Lu Ming nodded. I feel the same way. Master, do you know what's behind this? Yang Kuangtu asked. Chapter 982. 982 The Attack of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. I don't know anything. Even the emperors don't know anything about it, let alone me. Perhaps only the person who has the primordial chaos token knows a little. The ancient book I once read was recorded by an ancient emperor hundreds of thousands of years ago. At that time, there was already a battle of providence. That emperor also obtained a mixed essence token when he was young. According to his records, the battle of providence seems to be a selection of geniuses. It's only the beginning. If you meet certain standards and obtain a mixed essence token, you can take the next test, but it's very dangerous. According to the records of that emperor, he's seen countless geniuses who were more talented than him die. He was only lucky to survive and obtain some opportunities. Supreme Master Zheoyang stopped here. Lu Ming and Yang Kuangtu were extremely shocked. The emperors from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Had the battle of karmic luck been going on for so long? One had to know that an emperor could only live for 10 to 20,000 years at most. What kind of existence or power would take such a long time to select a heaven's favorite? Also, that emperor had seen countless geniuses who were more talented than him die. What kind of geniuses were those? To become an emperor, which one of them didn't have unparalleled talent? Which one of them wasn't unparalleled? A divine emperor was talented enough, but he only had the potential to reach the emperor realm. He wasn't 100% sure that he could. The supreme master of the 9 suns, Yang Kuangtu, which one of them wasn't an unparalleled talent? They also didn't have the confidence to break through to the emperor realm. However, the ancient emperor said that he had seen countless heaven's favorites who were stronger than him die. Even he had survived by luck. Could it be that the person with the token would have a new test later on? Master, what else did the ancient emperor say? Did he say what kind of existence is behind it? Yang Kuangtu asked curiously. There's nothing else. There's no more records. That ancient emperor didn't have the right to know what happened below. He wasn't qualified enough. 9 Suns Supreme Master shook his head. Lu Ming and Yang Kuangtu were extremely shocked. The things hidden behind the battle of providence were beyond their imagination. Lu Ming, the fact that you're able to obtain the primordial chaos token means that you've been acknowledged. Perhaps there will be greater opportunities in the future. Keep it for now and don't think too much about it, Supreme 9 Suns said. Lu Ming nodded. Is Supreme Martial Artist Yang here? At this moment, a voice came from outside. He was here to find Yang Kuangtu. Yes, please come in. Yang Kuangtu waved his hand, and the gate of the courtyard opened. A middle-aged man walked in. Lu Ming recognized him as an elder of the Talisman sect. The middle-aged man's eyes swept over the crowd and he quickly saluted. Fan Xing pays his respects to Zongzi, Senior Zheoyang, and Supreme Martial Artist Yang. Elder Fang, what is the matter? Yang Kuangtu asked. I'm here on the orders of the 2 sect masters and the doyens to invite Supreme Yang and Senior Zheoyang. I was going to invite Zongzi and the doyens to the meeting hall to discuss something, Fan Xing said. Oh. There must be something important for the elders of both factions to be gathered here. We'll head over now, Lu Ming said. Immediately, Lu Ming, Yang Kuangtu, 9 Suns Supreme, and Fan Xing went to the discussion hall. When they arrived, Fan Xing left, as he was not qualified to participate. Everyone, the great army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace is here to attack. Martial Emperor Di Yi will lead the army personally. As soon as Lu Ming and the rest arrived, Bai Shijin sent a message. Di Yi really can't hold back. He's going to make a move, 9 Suns Supreme said, his eyes focused. Seniors, what do you plan to do next? Lu Ming asked. We've already discussed it. Mount Liangyi is a natural formation. With the blessing of the patriarchs of the Talisman Amulet sect, we don't have to worry about its defense. Even Yi can't break in. Therefore, we have decided to give up all the territories of the Talisman Amulet sect. We will withdraw all the disciples and experts of the Talisman Amulet sect to the Yin and Yang Mountain and use the Great Formation to resist the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, Bai Shijin said. Lu Ming's heart sank and he sighed in his heart. With the Talisman Amulet sect's current strength, they were simply unable to fight against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Even if Yi did not move, they were no match for the forces below, let alone Yi and Martial Emperor. The best way now was to use the formation of Mount Liangyi to defend and slowly accumulate strength for a counterattack. After discussing the specific steps, they sent out orders one by one, asking the experts in the territory of the Talisman Amulet sect to retreat to the Yin and Yang Mountain. Senior Jiuyang, I have an item that should be of some help to you. Lu Ming suddenly said while everyone was discussing. Oh! The supreme martial artist of the Nine Suns asked doubtfully. The others also looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and a jade-like figure appeared in the hall. Could this be the legendary Heaven and Earth Jade Essence? When Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and the others saw this, their eyes almost popped out. They were tongue-tied. That's right, it's the Heaven and Earth Jade Essence. I obtained it in the Battle of Fate. Senior Nine Yang, with this, I wonder if you can form a physical body, Lu Ming said. At this moment, Supreme Master Jiuyang's eyes shone with a shocking light, as if they were two suns. My soul is already very solid now. If I add a few more materials and this Heaven and Earth Jade Essence, I can completely condense a physical body and return to my peak, Supreme Master Jiuyang said after taking a deep breath. His voice trembled a little, showing how excited he was. Really? Ha ha ha, that's great. Yang Kuangtu was overjoyed and laughed in excitement. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others were also overjoyed. What kind of person was the Supreme Master of the Nine Suns? He was known as the #1 Supreme Being in the East Baron. If Supreme Master Jiuyang could form a new body, the Talisman Amulet sect's strength would undoubtedly increase greatly. They would have another Supreme Being. How could they not be excited? It would be extremely important if the Nine Suns Supreme could reform his body during this war. That's good. I still have a bottle of life potion here. It might be useful. Lu Ming took out another bottle of life potion, shocking Bai Shijin and the rest. It seemed that Lu Ming had indeed obtained a great opportunity in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming, thank you. The Nine Suns Supreme did not stand on ceremony. He stared into Lu Ming's eyes and said solemnly, Senior Jiuyang, there's no need to be so polite with me. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. As long as I can help Senior Jiuyang, this is nothing. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming, I have to thank you too. From now on, you're my best brother. Yang Kuangtu patted Lu Ming's shoulder. Wasn't it in the past? Lu Ming asked with a smile. Yes, I've always been, ha ha ha. Yang Kuangtu laughed. With the Heaven-Earth Jade Essence and the Elixir of Life, the rest of the materials were easy to obtain. The Talisman sect managed to gather the required materials in no time, and the Nine Suns Paragon also went into seclusion to reforge his physical body. Chapter 983. 983 Yin and Yang Formation and Martial Emperor. As the days passed, the Empyrean Heavenly Divine Palace also launched a fierce attack on the Talisman Amulet sect. However, the Talisman Amulet sect didn't resist at all. Wherever the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's army passed by, the territory of the Talisman Amulet sect surrendered. In just a month, all the territories of the Talisman Amulet sect were occupied by the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. The Talisman Amulet sect was only left with the Yin-Yang Mountain. On this day, the roars of beasts could be heard outside the Yin and Yang Mountain. Countless powerful beings appeared outside of Mount Liangyi, riding on all kinds of fierce beasts. Their iron hooves stomped in the air, shaking the entire space. The flags fluttered and covered the sky. The aura of countless powerhouses was so strong that the sky changed color. The great army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had arrived. Buzz! The entire Mount Liangyi glowed, and countless inscriptions filled the air. The power of heaven and earth rose, and a huge taiji diagram appeared in the sky above Mount Liangyi. The yin-yang fish appeared and covered the entire Mount Liangyi. Lu Ming, Yang Guangtu, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and many other elders stood at the edge of Mount Liangyi, watching from afar through the formation. Boom! Boom! Heaven and earth shook as if a giant was stepping through the air. One after another, terrifying auras shot up into the sky. 10 figures appeared in front of the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Their vast auras burst out. Each of them was like an invincible god of war. The heads of the 6 great ancient families were all here, and the other 4 were undoubtedly at the same level. The 10 great masters. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, if you know what's good for you, quickly surrender and hand over Lu Ming. Perhaps you can still ensure the safety of your talisman amulet sect. Otherwise, once the formation is broken, everyone in the talisman amulet sect will be killed. The patriarch of the Wang clan was the first to speak. His voice was filled with killing intent. If you have the ability, then break the formation. If you can break the formation, we will die without regret. Bai Shijin coldly replied. It's said that the formation of Mount Liangyi can't be broken. I want to see if the rumor is true. The Wang clan leader's body was engulfed in flames. The scorching flames burned the space into nothingness, revealing a dark void that was deep and terrifying. Whoosh! It was a flaming sword that was thousands of meters long, and it exuded a terrifying aura. Even though they were separated by the array, many of the talisman sect's disciples revealed looks of fear. In front of a supreme martial artist, they felt like ants that were difficult to contend against. Slash! The master of the Wang family roared and slashed his flame sword at the yin and yang mountain. This sword could tear space apart and penetrate the earth. It had the power to destroy heaven and earth. The space was shattered by the sword. It was the first time for many of the talisman amulet sect's disciples to see a supreme martial artist's power. They were shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Boom! The flaming sword slashed at the taiji diagram above Mount Liangyi. The heavens and earth trembled, but the Tai Chi diagram did not shake at all. It was as stable as Mount Tai. The sword light disappeared, and the Jiang family's master looked gloomy. The yin and yang formation can't be broken by an emperor. Wang Shengtian, who do you think you are? Du Songjue coldly berated, causing the killing intent in the Wang family head's eyes to surge. Buzz! Above his head, the extreme purple heavenly fire bloodline appeared. He performed the bloodline fusion and turned into a flaming sword. He slashed at the yin and yang battle again. But this time, just like the last time, the yin and yang formation did not move at all, which made the head of the Wang family look even uglier. When the talisman amulet sect's disciples saw this, they finally let out a long sigh of relief. In the past, it was rumored that the yin and yang formation could not be broken by emperors. However, it was just a rumor and he was not confident about it. They were more worried when they saw the terrifying aura of the supreme martial artist. But now, they didn't have to worry anymore. The facts had proven that the yin and yang formation was strong and immortal. Let's attack together. I don't believe we can't break this formation, the patriarch of the Wang clan said to the other 9. All right. The other 9 people nodded. Boom. Boom. The 10 great supremes burst forth at the same time with an earth-shattering aura. The space around them couldn't withstand the terrifying pressure and crumbled. Behind them, the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace retreated hurriedly, retreating a full 10,000 miles. In the next moment, the 10 Supreme Masters attacked at the same time. 10 terrifying attacks attacked the yin and yang formation at the same time. Maintain the formation. Bai Shijin's voice was transmitted far away. Many elders and disciples were pouring their spiritual energy into the array platforms. There were countless platforms all over the yin and yang mountain that were connected to the yin and yang battle. The disciples of the Talisman sect could continuously inject their spiritual power to maintain the power of the yin and yang mountain formation. There were simply too many of such platforms scattered all over the place. They weren't afraid that the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace's spies in the Talisman Amulet sect would destroy all of them. After all, Destroying a few platforms wouldn't affect the Grand Formation at all unless they destroyed all of them. But that was impossible. How big was the Yin and Yang mountain? Even if there were spies, Bai Shijin and the others could kill them in time. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of the 10 Supremes only caused slight ripples on the Taiji diagram, which was negligible. The Yin and Yang formation was not just for show. I'll do it. From the depths of the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, a voice rang out. The next moment, a golden sword light slashed through the space, vast and mighty, like the might of the heavens, slashing down towards the Taiji diagram. Boom. The entire Mount Liangyi seemed to jump and shake. However, the Tai Chi diagram glowed and blocked this sword light. Whoosh, whoosh. But immediately after, one sword light after another slashed down violently. Accompanied by the sword light that was like the might of the heavens, a person stepped through the air. Martial Emperor Di. His figure was not very burly, but he gave people a feeling that he was as tall as the sky. He stood casually in the void like a god that could support the sky and earth. His body was filled with golden light. Each ray of golden light turned into a combat sword and slashed at the Yin and Yang formation. Boom, boom. Waves appeared on the Tai Chi diagram, and it kept shaking. Maintain it. Bai Shijin's voice spread far and wide. In front of all the platforms, the Talisman Amulet sect's disciples continued to pour in their mental energy fire to maintain the power of the formation. Buzz. Tens of thousands of golden lights gathered on Martial Emperor Di's body and turned into a huge sword, which slashed down. Boom, boom, boom. The sky rumbled and the void shattered, revealing a terrifying spatial crack that was thousands of miles long. Bai Shijin and the others looked extremely serious. The strength of Martial Emperor Di was beyond their imagination. The Yin and Yang formation seemed to be under great pressure. Fortunately, in the end, the Yin and Yang formation still withstood the attack and was not broken. Martial Emperor Di restrained his aura, and his face was a little gloomy. Bai Shijin and the others let out a long breath. Although the ancestors of the Talisman sect had said that martial emperors could not break the Yin and Yang formation, Martial Emperor Di's reputation was too great. He was invincible in the Eastern Barren territory. Before this, no one had any confidence. If the Yin and Yang formation was broken, the Talisman sect would be completely annihilated and there would be no one left in the Yin and Yang mountain. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, there was a deafening sound from a mountain peak deep in the Yin and Yang mountain. Then, a sun emerged from the mountain peak. Chapter 984. 984 The reappearance of the 9 suns, the boundless blood sea. There used to be a sun in the sky, and now there was another one floating in the middle of Mount Liangyi. It was extremely bright, competing with the sun in the sky. However, this was only the beginning. After a few breaths, another sun appeared. Then, one sun after another appeared in the sky, competing with the real sun. In the end, a total of 9 suns appeared. They were so bright that no one could open their eyes. Boom! A burly figure rushed out of the mountain peak and stood under the 9 suns. He was like a sun god descending to the world, giving people an indescribable shock. Master Yang Kuang-tu was ecstatic. Jiuyang, it's Xia Jiuyang. Outside the Yin and Yang formation, the masters of the Wang and Jiang families shouted in disbelief. Wasn't the supreme being of the 9 suns only left with a wisp of his soul? But from the looks of it, he had clearly recovered his physical body, and his aura was powerful and unrivaled. All the supreme martial artists of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had extremely grave expressions. Among them, there were many supreme martial artists who had worked with the 9 Suns supreme martial artist before and knew how terrifying he was. The supreme of 9 Suns used to be known as the #1 supreme in the Eastern Barren territory. Even someone as powerful as Yang Kuang-tu didn't have this title, because Yang Kuang-tu had his own rivals, while the supreme of 9 Suns had no rivals below the martial emperor realm. Senior Jiuyang. Lu Ming was overjoyed. It seemed that the 9 Suns Supreme had succeeded. Bai Shijin and the others also looked happy. The 9 Suns Supreme Master had recovered, and their power was much stronger. The The Nine Suns supreme martial artist alone was equivalent to several supreme martial artists. Boom! With a loud boom, the 9 suns trembled and slowly shrank, turning into 9 light spots and entering the body of the 9 suns supreme master. Buzz! With a flash of light, the 9 suns supreme appeared beside Lu Ming and the others. Senior Joyoung, you've recovered? Lu Ming was extremely excited. Haha, I've reformed my physical body. However, it'll take some time for me to recover my peak cultivation and combat strength, the 9 Suns Supreme Master said with a smile. That's great, haha. Yang Kuang-tu was overjoyed and laughed. When the other elders of the Talisman sect heard about this, they were also extremely excited. This was a boost to their morale. The 9 Yang Supreme Master's reputation was too great. He was invincible among Supremes below the Martial Emperor realm. This was a huge boost to the morale of the Talisman Amulet sect. Xia Joyoung has really recovered. The Wang clan master and the others widened their eyes in shock. Joyoung, I didn't expect you to be able to recover your physical body. Martial Emperor Di also frowned slightly. What's wrong? Di, you didn't expect this, did you? It's all thanks to Lu Ming that I have the chance to recover. Moreover, good fortune and bad luck come together. After this disaster, I may be able to reach a higher level, 9 Suns Supreme said as he stared at Martial Emperor Di. His words were like a sudden clap of thunder, causing the Wang clan's clan master, Bai Shijin, and the others to be greatly shocked. The only difference was that the Wang clan master and the others were shocked, while Bai Shijin and the others were ecstatic. The 9 Suns Paragon had already reached the supreme level and had reached the peak. What did it mean to be able to reach the next level? Wouldn't he be at the Martial Royal Realm? Could the 9 Suns Supreme possibly break through to the Martial Royal Realm? This was too shocking. It had been thousands of years since a new Martial Emperor had been born in the Eastern Wilderness. A Martial Emperor could live for 10 to 20,000 years, but after so many years, how many Martial Emperors were there in the Eastern Barren Territory? They could be counted with the fingers. If the 9 Suns Supreme had really broken through to the Martial Royal Realm, the Talisman Amulet sect would have the capital to fight against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Di's eyes were filled with amazing brilliance. He said, Joyoung, you've indeed gained a blessing in disguise and obtained a great opportunity. You've wandered for decades as a remnant soul, which has improved your cultivation. At the same time, your new body and soul have a compelling spirituality. You do have the chance to take that step and become a Martial Emperor. You're indeed the disciple I've chosen. All of this is thanks to you, Supreme 9 Suns said. Haha, Joyoung, even so, it'll be difficult for you to cross it in 10 years. After 10 years, you and the Yin and Yang mountain will be turned into ashes. Even if you break through to the Martial Royal Realm, do you think you can compete with me? Martial Emperor Di laughed, full of invincible confidence. The hearts of Bai Shijin and the others sank. Not to mention when the 9 Suns Supreme would break through. Even if he could break through, was he really a match for Martial Emperor Di? It had been 10,000 years since Di became a Martial Emperor. No one could say what realm he had reached. I've said that the Talisman sect will be destroyed. You won't have any chance. Although the Yin and Yang formation is powerful, it's not invincible. Martial Emperor Di's voice came out, and a blood-red light emitted from between his eyebrows. Hualala. The next moment, there was the sound of waves crashing. A sea of blood appeared in front of Martial Emperor Di. It was a sea of blood. Furthermore, the blood sea was expanding rapidly. 10 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles. In the end, it expanded to millions of miles wide, covering the entire area of Mount Liangyi. The sea of blood covered the sky, causing the Talisman Amulet sect to be completely dark. Not a single ray of sunlight could be seen. This is boundless blood sea. How was that possible? There really is such a heaven-defying treasure in the world. Du Songjue cried out in shock. Bai Shijin, Meng Chong, and the other experts who had heard of the name of the boundless blood sea also widened their eyes in shock. Bai Shijin, what's going on with this boundless blood sea? How come I've never heard of such a treasure? Yang Guangtu asked. I don't know either. I only read about it in the ancient records. It doesn't exist in the divine wilderness continent. This boundless blood sea has a terrifying power, which is to break arrays. It can cover an array and corrode its foundation, thus completely destroying the array. I didn't expect Die to have a treasure like this. Bai Shijin's face was extremely ugly. Yang Guangtu's face darkened when he heard this. I guess it's a treasure that Martial Emperor Die brought back from overseas. He has been planning to deal with the Yin and Yang mountain for a long time, Supreme Nine Suns said. The world is so big, the divine wilderness is but a drop in the ocean. I brought this back from overseas, and it is enough to break the array of your Mount Liangyi. Martial Emperor Die's voice was heard. The patriarch of the Wang clan and the others were overjoyed. Hualala. The blood sea rolled and covered the Yin and Yang formation. The blood-colored sea water seeped into the mountain along the border of the Yin and Yang mountain, destroying the mountain. Lu Ming and the rest even heard a sizzling sound. How did this happen? Some of the Talisman sect's elders shouted anxiously. There's no need to panic. Although the boundless blood sea is strong, the Yin and Yang formation has its own natural power. Even the boundless blood sea can't break the Yin and Yang formation in a short time, Bai Shijin said, trying to comfort everyone. Standing outside the Yin and Yang formation, Martial Emperor Die looked at the rolling blood sea and ordered, the limitless blood sea can't break the Yin and Yang formation in a short period of time. Leave a group of people here to guard this place and prevent the Talisman Amulet sect from escaping. Also, guard the teleportation formations at all places. Yes, Your Majesty. The Supreme Martial Artists received the order. Martial Emperor Die's body moved and disappeared. Chapter 985. 985 5 years' time. Inside the Yin-Yang mountain, it was dark. Everywhere was covered in blood. The sky was covered by the blood sea. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and the rest sent out a few messages to calm the people down. The Talisman Amulet sect then slowly calmed down. In the Talisman Amulet sect's conference hall, Lu Ming, Yang Guangtu, Nine Suns Supreme, and the higher-ups of the Talisman Amulet sect were sitting together to discuss some matters. However, the atmosphere was very solemn. Everyone felt as if a huge stone was weighing on their hearts. Senior White, Senior Du, how long can the Yin and Yang formation last? Lu Ming asked. Bai Shijin pondered for a moment and said, the great formation of Mount Liangyi mainly borrows the power of the mountains and rivers. At the same time, it is reinforced by the formation skills of the ancestors. It is indestructible. On the other hand, the main function of the boundless blood sea is corrosion. It slowly corrodes the foundation of the formation skills and then breaks the formation skills. This requires a process. As long as our Talisman Amulet sect's disciples constantly inject their mental energy to maintain the formation and resist it, it should be possible to maintain it for 5 years. Yes, it's about the same time as I expected. Du Songjue also nodded. 5 years. Many people were slightly relieved, but the atmosphere was still heavy. 5 years might seem long, but it passed in the blink of an eye. What would happen to the Talisman sect 5 years later if the formation was broken? I have finally touched the threshold of the Emperor realm after reconstructing my body and with the blessing of fate. However, it is still very difficult to break through. I am not sure if I can break through within 5 years. Even if I do, I may not be able to compete with Die. Die is unfathomable. The Supreme Master of the Nine Suns spoke, and the atmosphere became even more serious. Then what should we do? An elder spoke. Was he just going to sit and wait for death? Just wait for 5 years for Die and Martial Emperor to come? No matter what, we still have 5 years. 5 years is enough for many changes to happen. We might have a chance. After Bai Shijin spoke, everyone discussed the next step. In the end, it was decided that all the resources of the Talisman sect would be opened up to provide for the cultivation of the sect's disciples. They would do their best to raise their strength to face the challenge in 5 years. Elders, I have something to discuss with the elders. You may leave first. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly spoke, causing everyone to be stunned. Many elder-level powerhouses looked at each other, then cupped their fists and said, "Yes, Zongzi. We will take our leave." Lu Ming was now a Zongzi and his authority was above that of ordinary elders. Naturally, these elders would not say much. Although they had doubts in their hearts, they still took their leave. In the main hall, only 9 Sons Supreme, Yang Kuangtu, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and a few of the most senior elders were left. "Lu Ming, what do you have to discuss with us?" Bai Shijin asked. What was it that required the elders to leave? They were curious. "Seniors, I will be leaving Mount Liangyi for the next 5 years to cultivate in the outside world," Lu Ming said. "Leave Mount Liangyi?" Bai Shijin and the others were slightly stunned. "Not bad." Lu Ming nodded his head solemnly. This was Lu Ming's decision. He had the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Only by leaving the Yin and Yang mountain, adventuring, and fighting with the strong could his cultivation level improve quickly. If he stayed in the Yin and Yang mountain, his cultivation would not improve much within 5 years, no matter how many resources he had. It would be good enough if he could break through to the spiritual god realm. However, what was the use of a spiritual god realm master when he faced Die? Wouldn't he still be slapped to death? Only by taking risks outside could he have a slight chance to grow to the level where he could fight Die. I agree with Lu Ming's idea. Lu Ming is still young and it's the golden age for cultivation. If he's trapped here, his achievements will be limited. He can only improve quickly if he goes out. The supreme martial artist of the 9 Sons said. Not bad. Yang Kuangtu nodded. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others also nodded. But, if Lu Ming thinks of this, I'm afraid Di will think of it too. If Lu Ming goes out, Di will probably sense it through the 9 dragon bloodline. Wouldn't that be more dangerous? Bai Shijin muttered. Well, unless Lu Ming leaves the Eastern Barren Territory and goes to other areas to cultivate, Du Songjue said. I'm planning to head to the central continent, Lu Ming said. As long as the distance was far enough, even Di would not be able to sense the bloodline of the 9 dragons. However, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others were still frowning. There's one more important thing, Bai Shijin said after a while. Ever since Master Liao Kang disappeared, especially in the last few hundred years, the Central Continent's overlord forces have cut off all contact with the Talisman Amulet sect. Therefore, if we want to go to the Central Continent, we can't activate the Inter-Territory Teleportation Array and directly teleport to the Central Continent or other territory. What? We can't teleport directly, Yang Kuangtu said. The others also frowned. The Eastern Barren Territory and Central Continent were very far from each other. The border between the 2 territories was a vast chaotic territory. This chaotic territory ran from south to north, separating the Central Continent and the Eastern Barren Territory. Usually, overlord forces like the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace would have contact with the overlord forces of the Central Continent. If one wanted to go to the Central Continent, they just had to take the Inter-Territory Teleportation Array and directly teleport to the overlord forces of the Central Continent. But now, the Talisman Amulet sect no longer had any contact with the Central Continent's overlord forces. They had long cut off all contact and had no teleportation coordinates. There was no way to directly teleport over. If they couldn't teleport, they could only cross the chaotic domain and head to the Central Continent. However, the chaotic realm was extremely vast, extremely far away, and extremely dangerous. Even a spiritual god realm master would face the risk of death if he wanted to cross the chaotic realm. However, this was not the most important point. They were worried that Lu Ming could not be directly teleported to the Central Continent. If he walked out of the Yin and Yang mountain, he would definitely appear somewhere in the East Continent. Di might sense the 9 dragon bloodline and determine his location. This was what they were worried about. This can be so levered as well. As long as we work together and seal Lu Ming's 9 dragon bloodline aura for a while, it's still possible. However, even in the Central Continent, I'm afraid that there are spies of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. If Lu Ming is found out by Martial Emperor Die in the Central Continent, It will be even more dangerous. Du Songjue said. He had thought through everything. Seniors, if I were still in the Talisman Amulet sect, I would be able to attract the attention of Di and Martial Emperor. Then, Di would not pay attention to the affairs of the Central Continent, right? Lu Ming said. You're still in the Talisman Amulet sect. Then how are you going to go to Central Continent? Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and even Nine Sons Supreme were a little confused. They did not know what Lu Ming meant. Seniors, look. Lu Ming waved his hand and a jade-like figure appeared in the hall. Heaven and Earth Jade Essence, you still have a Heaven and Earth Jade Essence. Bai Shijin and the others all widened their eyes and were tongue-tied. Back then, Lu Ming had taken out a Heaven and Earth Jade Essence. He did not expect to have another one. Chapter 986. 986 Soul Separation. That's right, it's Heaven and Earth Jade Essence. I obtained 2 Heaven and Earth Jade Essence in the Battle of Providence, Lu Ming said. 2. Everyone's heart trembled slightly. They could not help but envy Lu Ming's heaven-defying opportunity to obtain 2 Heaven and Earth Jade Essences. However, they were still puzzled. What did this have to do with Lu Ming heading to the Central Continent? Seniors, I've also obtained a secret technique in the Battle of Providence. It's called the Twin Forbidden Spell. Lu Ming then explained the Twin Forbidden Spell. Heavens, there's such a secret technique? Everyone was dumbfounded and shocked. This secret skill was simply heaven-defying. He was actually able to split his soul into 2 and create a clone that was equivalent to himself. The clone had the exact same aura and could cultivate on its own. This was simply a heaven-defying secret technique. I want to cultivate a second body and let it stay in the Talisman Amulet sect. The second body's aura will be exactly the same as mine, which is like another me. This way, I can firmly attract the attention of Die and Martial Emperor here. He will think that I'm always in the Talisman Amulet sect. In this way, my main body can go to the Central Continent and explore. Lu Ming revealed his plan. The 9 Sons Supreme, Bai Shijin, and the others muttered to themselves. This was indeed a good idea. Lu Ming, what other materials do you need to cultivate the Twin Forbidden Spell? Bai Shijin asked. The most important things are the Elixir of Life and the Heaven and Earth Jade Essence. I already have these, but I still need some other materials. Following that, Lu Ming told him about some other materials. Lu Ming, we can gather all the materials you mentioned, but we might not have many treasures that can repair souls. Bai Shijin said. To practice the Twin Forbidden Scroll, one's soul had to be split into 2, which would undoubtedly cause great damage to the soul. After successfully practicing it, one would need a treasure to restore the soul, which would restore both the main body and the secondary body to their peak state. This was absolutely necessary, otherwise, it would have a great impact on the future practice. Haha, treasures to recover the soul. You don't have to worry about that. My master and I have been to many secret places and obtained many treasures to recover the soul. We still have a lot of them now. Yang Guangtu laughed and a storage ring appeared in his hand. He handed it to Lu Ming and said, there are quite a few soul concentrating stones in here. Do you think it's enough? Over the past year, Yang Guangtu had gathered the soul power for the 9 Sons Supreme and had found many treasures to recover his soul. Lu Ming scanned the ring with his mind and found that there were hundreds of black stones in the storage ring that exuded a mysterious aura. They were the legendary soul consolidating stones. Enough. Enough. Lu Ming was overjoyed. All right, we'll gather the other materials and let Lu Ming cultivate the second body as soon as possible, Bai Shijin said. Du Songjue and the others also revealed hopeful expressions. Lu Ming's talent was heaven-defying and he had the bloodline of the 9 dragons. It was indeed a waste for him to stay in the Talisman Amulet sect. If he were to risk his life and cultivate outside, he might be able to create a miracle. Moreover, even if he could not create a miracle and reach the level where he could fight against Die, Lu Ming's survival was still a hope. Even if the Talisman Amulet sect was destroyed, Lu Ming could avenge it in the future and even rebuild it. They also understood why Lu Ming asked the elders to go out. This matter could not be spread. It could not be known to martial Emperor Di. Otherwise, it would be a waste of effort. 3 days later, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged in an underground cave in the Talisman sect. He activated the twin forbidden spell. More than 10 materials turned into a ball of liquid in his hands and covered the heaven and earth jade essence. Condense. Lu Ming's hands kept forming wonderful hand seals. Beams of light entered the heaven and earth jade essence. The heaven and earth jade essence glowed and fused with the materials. Its shape actually began to change slowly. Originally, although the heaven and earth jade essence had taken the form of a human, it only had a vague human shape. Its facial features were very vague. However, at this moment, the heaven and earth jade essence's facial features began to become clear. Its entire body began to change from top to bottom, and it began to transform into a body of flesh and blood. His internal organs, meridians, bones, and blood began to transform and appear as Lu Ming kept forming hand seals. Water of life. At this moment, Lu Ming took out the elixir of life and poured over 0.5 kilogram of it onto the heaven and earth jade essence. The heaven and earth jade essence began to emit an aura of life. It's time. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. The next step was the most crucial one. He would split his soul and merge it with the heaven and earth jade essence to create a second body. This step was very dangerous and difficult. If one was not careful, it would damage one's soul and even fail the cultivation. Lu Ming activated the twin forbidden spell and his body glowed. In the end, a ball of light and shadow emerged. It was very blurry, but one could barely see that it looked exactly like Lu Ming. This was Lu Ming's soul. Crack! Lu Ming shouted and formed a seal. Instantly, Lu Ming's soul started to tremble and slowly split apart from the middle. Immediately, an unimaginable pain drowned Lu Ming. Roar! In an instant, Lu Ming's eyes were bloodshot and he let out a beast-like roar. It was too painful. It was too painful. This kind of pain was unimaginable. It was 100 times, no, 1,000 times more painful than the pain on the body. Those whose minds were not strong enough could collapse at this step and fail. This was the pain of the soul splitting, and it came directly from the soul. This little pain is nothing, Lu Ming growled. He concentrated on his heart and continued to operate the twin forbidden spell. The endless pain drowned Lu Ming, but he endured it. Lu Ming's soul was slowly splitting apart. The process was very slow and Lu Ming was suffering every moment. This kind of suffering continued for 3 days. Finally, his soul completely split. The split soul turned into a ball of light and entered the heaven and earth jade essence. At that moment, Lu Ming felt his mind go blank. His eyes were unfocused and he was extremely weak. No, hold on, I'm still cultivating the twin forbidden spell. Lu Ming roared in his heart. He finally came to his senses and continued to circulate the twin forbidden spell. The twin forbidden art was indeed a forbidden art. It was extremely dangerous to cultivate it. Every step was filled with danger. If one made a mistake, not only would the cultivation fail, but one's body would also suffer unimaginable injuries. Fortunately, Lu Ming managed to withstand it. Mind fire, separate into the clone, in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, the mental energy fire was slowly separated from his soul. Lu Ming planned to completely refine the second body into an inscribed body. It was too energy-consuming for one person to cultivate two. During this period of time, Lu Ming often felt that he did not have enough energy. It was difficult to cultivate both martial arts and the path of inscription at the same time. He would always fall behind in one of them. During this period of time, Lu Ming had been focusing on martial arts and had fallen behind on the Tao of inscription. His progress was very slow. Therefore, Lu Ming planned to take this opportunity to separate the Tao of inscription. He would let the secondary body focus on the Tao of inscription, while the main body would focus on the martial arts. The second body, without any distracting thoughts, would cultivate the Tao of inscription, and its speed would definitely be terrifying. The main body, on the other hand, would focus on cultivating martial arts. This was a reasonable combination. Chapter 987. 987 Chapter 987 Second body completed, set off. Lu Ming sat quietly without moving. The heaven and earth jade essence was glowing and its body shape was slowly changing. A month later, the heaven and earth jade essence had completely transformed into a human body. It was a body of flesh and blood, and its appearance was exactly the same as Lu Ming. The muscles on his body were firm and well proportioned, full of perfect lines, like the most beautiful piece of art from heaven. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes, a smile on his face. The second body had successfully cultivated it. At this time, the second body also opened his eyes. However, there was no emotion in his eyes. His eyes were very empty and without any impurities, just like a newborn baby. Lu Ming's mind flickered. His mind seemed to be able to enter the second body's mind at any time. At this time, the second body showed a trace of emotion and nodded slightly at Lu Ming. The main body and the second body could communicate with each other. No matter how far away they were, the main body could sense what the second body saw and what happened. The main body could even receive what the second body understood. This was truly heaven-defying and unbelievable. At this moment, a purple mental energy fire was dancing between the second body's eyebrows. Countless runes suddenly appeared under his feet and spread in all directions, forming a large array. It's so fast. The inscribing speed is too fast. It's more than twice as fast as my original inscribing speed. Lu Ming was shocked. The second body was free of impurities, and if he did one thing, he would focus on another, which was naturally more effective. In the future, you will focus on the Tao of inscription. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and touched the clone's glabella. The cultivation experience that Lian Kang had sealed in Lu Ming's Sea of Consciousness was transferred to the clone's Sea of Consciousness. Then, a scroll appeared in Lu Ming's hand and flew into the clone's glabella, disappearing. It was the all-formation diagram. Then, Lu Ming took out a storage ring and put it on. The storage ring contained all kinds of materials related to the Tao of inscription. Lu Ming gave all of them to his clone. The clone's palm glowed and a set of blue clothes appeared. The clone put it on and instantly, he looked exactly like Lu Ming. To be more precise, the clone was Lu Ming. It was no different from Lu Ming himself. The only difference was that the clone did not have Lu Ming's consciousness. With a single thought, the clone took a step forward, turned into a ray of light, and entered the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows. Lu Ming's mind sank into his Sea of Consciousness and found the clone sitting cross-legged in his Sea of Consciousness, quietly cultivating the inscription Tao. It's time to recover my soul force. Lu Ming had an idea and reappeared. He then took out the soul consolidation stone and started to recover his soul force. After all, splitting one's soul in two was too much of a loss. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Lu Ming had been in seclusion for 2 months. It's time to go. Lu Ming opened his eyes. After a month of refining the soul consolidating stone, the soul force of his main body and his secondary body had almost fully recovered. He then entered his Sea of Consciousness, got up, and walked out of the secret room. Outside the secret chamber, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, Yang Kuangtu, and the 9 Sons Supreme were waiting. Lu Ming has come out. Yang Kuangtu's eyes lit up. Lu Ming, how's your cultivation going? Did you succeed? Bai Shijin asked. The rest of them looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. Lu Ming smiled and a light flashed between his brows. He walked out and stood beside Lu Ming. The two of them were identical, both wearing blue robes. The gazes of 9 Sons Supreme and the other 3 immediately fell on the second body. They sensed it carefully, and then their eyes revealed amazement. Wonderful, wonderful, this is simply a work of art that surpasses the heavens. Bai Shijin was extremely shocked and sighed. It is indeed a stroke of good fortune. With such a body in the talisman amulet sect, as long as he shows his face occasionally, you will definitely think that Lu Ming has always been here, Supreme 9 Sons said. Lu Ming, when do you plan to leave? Du Songjue asked. We'll set off in 2 days. Lu Ming said. Well, before we set off, we'll first seal the aura of your 9 dragon bloodline, he said. Du Songjue nodded. Lu Ming bade farewell to the few of them and went to the Lu family residence. When Lu Yuntian and Li Ping saw two identical Lu Mings standing in front of them, they were stunned for a long time. If it wasn't for the fact that the eyes of the main body and the secondary body were different, they wouldn't be able to recognize which was the main and which was the secondary. Ming-er, are you going to leave? Li Ping asked. Lu Ming nodded. He only planned to tell Lu Yuntian and Li Ping about the main body and the secondary body. He did not tell anyone else. Ming-er, don't worry. Your second body is also half of your soul, which means you're with us, Lu Yuntian said. Indeed, the main body and the secondary body could communicate with each other. The secondary body was equivalent to Lu Ming. Father, here are some cultivation and martial arts techniques. Take them and cultivate them yourself. In the future, if there are any descendants of the Lu family, mystical sword sect, or Hua family who have good character and comprehension, you can pass them on to them. Lu Ming took out a stack of secret manuals and passed them to Lu Yuntian. Lu Yuntian took the book and casually flipped through it. His eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. This? A god-grade cultivation technique. Lu Yuntian was incomparably shocked. That's right, the moment he opened it, he saw that it was a god-tier cultivation technique, the heaven-warping divine technique. Yes, there are 2 deity-level cultivation techniques, and the rest are demigod-level martial arts techniques. Lu Ming nodded. Lu Ming had obtained all of these in the Battle of Providence. With these cultivation methods and martial arts techniques, he believed that the Lu family would definitely rise. Lu Yuntian took a few deep breaths before he put away the secret manual solemnly. 2 days later, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged in a secret chamber. The 9-dragon bloodline was suspended above his head. Bai Shijin and the others were beside him, constantly condensing inscriptions and covering the 9-dragon bloodline. They only stopped after half a day. The 9-dragon bloodline seeped into Lu Ming's body, and he opened his eyes. Lu Ming, now that your 9-dragon bloodline has reached the 6th level of the divine level, your aura is too powerful. Even if we join forces, we can only seal it for half a year. After half a year, the seal will no longer be able to seal the aura of the 9-dragon bloodline. Bai Shijin said. Half a year is enough. Lu Ming nodded. Half a year later, he would definitely be far away from the East continent. No matter how heaven-defying Martial Emperor Di was, he would not be able to sense him. Lu Ming, take care. I hope to see you again in the future. You're already able to shock the world. Yang Guangtu patted Lu Ming's shoulder. Big brother Yang, senior Jiuyang, goodbye. Lu Ming cupped his fists solemnly and exchanged a glance with his second body. He then followed by Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest and left in big strides. If Lu Ming were to bring his second body with him, he would undoubtedly be much stronger. However, he had no other choice now. He had to leave his second body in the Talisman Amulet sect. Together with Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others, they arrived at a teleportation altar. Lu Ming, all the territories of the Talisman Amulet sect have been occupied by Martial Emperor Di. The territories near the chaotic realm must have been occupied as well. The teleportation altars in those territories must be closely guarded. However, my Talisman Amulet sect also has a secret teleportation altar hidden in the mountains and forests. You can teleport to that secret place. The rest will be up to you, Bai Shijin warned. Thank you, Senior White, Senior Du, and take care of your sleevers. Lu Ming cupped his fists and stepped into the teleportation altar. The teleportation altar glowed and formed a vortex. Lu Ming disappeared. Chapter 988. 988 Chapter 988 Chaotic Domain. To the west of Mount Liangyi, there were more than a dozen large regions, which were close to the chaotic realm. The West Wind region was a large region that was close to the chaotic domain. Right now, the West Wind region had completely fallen into the hands of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Some of the important cities had the shadow of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace's experts. In particular, there were more experts from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace in the dozen or so large regions near the chaotic territory. It seems that Martial Emperor Di has indeed taken precautions. He is afraid that I will teleport out of the Talisman Amulet sect and head to the central continent. A black-robed young man was flying in the sky above a forest. The black-robed young man was Lu Ming. After he was teleported out of the Talisman Amulet sect, he appeared in an underground cave. That underground cave was the teleportation array that the Talisman Amulet sect had secretly built. Then, Lu Ming took out the aura-concealing talisman that he had prepared earlier and stuck it on his body to conceal his aura. He had no choice. Now that the mental energy fire had been transferred to his second body, even if he understood the principle and technique, he could not inscribe any inscriptions at all. Then, he changed his appearance and changed his clothes before he left the underground cave and flew toward the chaotic domain. Of course, Dandan was with him, but she had been staying in the mountain and river diagram all this time, gnawing on spiritual medicine and sleeping, euphemistically calling it recovery. Buzz. Buzz. A group of people flew over from the front. They were the experts of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. However, they only glanced at Lu Ming and flew past him. This won't do. It's better to run in the forest. We'll be too big of a target in the sky. If we meet someone with a meticulous mind, we might become suspicious. At the thought of this, Lu Ming landed in the forest and ran through the forest. A few days later, Lu Ming arrived at the western border of the West Wind region. There was a large city in front of him. Once he left the large city, he would enter the territory of the chaotic realm. I'll go to this city to buy some things before entering the chaotic realm. I heard that the climate in the chaotic realm is unpredictable, and some places are devoid of life. It's best to buy some food and bring it with you, Lu Ming thought to himself. With his current cultivation, it was fine even if he didn't eat for a year. However, he would still eat some food as a habit. Stop, pass through this platform. At the city gates, there were experts from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace standing guard. Anyone who wanted to enter the city had to step on a formation platform. Lu Ming had already learned that this platform could test out mental energy fire. If one cultivated the Tao of inscription and had an extremely strong mental energy fire, there would be a reaction when they stepped on the platform. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace wanted to trap the Talisman Amulet sect because they were afraid that the Talisman Amulet sect disciples would sneak out. However, Lu Ming was a pure martial artist now and did not have any mental energy fire. Naturally, he could pass through the platform easily and enter the city. Then, Lu Ming found a market and bought a large number of supplies. He then left the city and headed to the chaotic territory. The chaotic domain was a forbidden area to the majority of martial artists. Not only did it run from the north to the south, separating the central continent from the east continent, but it was also extremely vast and contained unknown dangers. Even if a spiritual God Realm master was unlucky, there was a possibility of death. It was said that the land of chaos had extremely complicated terrains, such as deserts, swamps, barren mountains, and ghost lands. It had everything. Furthermore, the weather was constantly changing. It could be a clear sky one moment and a storm the next. There might even be flames falling from the sky, making it extremely dangerous. There were also some ferocious beasts and evil spirits hidden within. Some of them were extremely powerful, and even spirit god experts would die if they encountered them. Therefore, no one was willing to enter the chaotic realm. If they wanted to go to the central continent, they would have to use the teleportation arrays of the Overlord forces. However, Lu Ming had no choice. He could not expose his identity. He could only move forward and cross over. After leaving the city, the road was smooth. After more than 100,000 miles, a barren mountain range appeared in front of them. There was no vegetation on the mountain range, and it was a barren land with only bare rocks. They had already reached the territory of the Chaos Realm. Lu Ming perked up, slowed down, and flew in. Lu Ming frowned the moment he entered the area of the desolate mountains. What a high temperature! The temperature from the sun here is dozens of times higher than in other places. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was extremely surprised. He retreated for several miles and the temperature returned to normal. It was only a thin line away, but the temperature from the sun was completely different. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. He circulated his essential core to protect his body and flew forward. Gah! He had not even flown for a few thousand miles when a cry was heard. A giant fiery red bird appeared and pounced at Lu Ming like lightning. Before it even reached him, a wave of scorching heat was already heading towards him. Spirit Embryo Realm Beast. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect to encounter a Spirit Embryo Realm ferocious beast the moment he entered the Chaos Realm. A long spear condensed in his hand. The long spear pierced through the air, and with a pu-kai sound, the beast was stabbed in the air. The devouring power burst forth and devoured the energy of the blood essence of the beast. What scorching power! It must be related to the high temperature here. Whether it was the beast's demonic power or blood essence, they were all extremely hot, like flames. However, under the condensation of the 9 dragons' bloodline, it was quickly refined. As he continued flying, Lu Ming realized that there weren't many ferocious beasts here. He would only encounter one occasionally, and most of them were below the 8th level of the Spirit Embryo Realm. Devouring them was of little use to his cultivation. Hundreds of thousands of miles later, the desolate mountains disappeared, and what appeared in front of them was a desert. The boundless desert was golden in color, and it was impossible to tell how big it was. When Lu Ming stepped in, he was surprised to find that the temperature here was even more terrifying. It was 10 times higher than the desolate mountains and hundreds of times higher than the outside world. Not to mention the vegetation, even the most powerful demonic beasts would not be able to survive here. They would die from the high temperature. However, after Lu Ming entered, he was surprised to find that there were actually living creatures in the desert. Lu Ming saw a type of sandworm. Its shell was like a fiery red diamond, shining brightly and extremely hard. After that, Lu Ming saw a 100-meter-long centipede swallowing and spitting out the sun essence as if it was bathing in flames. As soon as it saw Lu Ming, it pounced at him. This centipede was at the great circle of the Spirit Embryo Realm and had extremely powerful combat strength. The flames it spewed out from its mouth seemed to be able to burn everything. Its diamond-like shell was extremely hard and had an extremely terrifying defense. This centipede was much stronger than a martial artist at the great circle of the Spirit Embryo Realm of the same level. The flames it spewed out could easily kill a martial artist of the same level. Lu Ming fought with it for dozens of moves and only killed it after erupting his dragon power. Then, he kept the entire centipede. This centipede was full of treasures. If he sold it, he could get a lot of raw stones. The desert was really vast. For the next 10 days, Lu Ming shuttled through the desert and experienced a few big battles. 10 days later, Lu Ming looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. Boom, boom, boom. In front of him, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Terrifying lightning covered the entire sky like lightning snakes. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 989. 989 Comprehending the Water Concept. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, dark clouds covered the sky, and heavy rain poured down like water. Below him was a water pool that stretched as far as the eye could see. Lu Ming was really in a daze. He was standing in a desert. The sun was shining brightly and the temperature was terrifyingly high. However, there were dark clouds and heavy rain in front of him. The difference was too great, and Lu Ming could not turn around. The Chaos Realm truly lives up to its name. Lu Ming sighed and flew forward. Kaila. As soon as he flew into the area with heavy rain, the temperature dropped sharply and returned to normal. However, in the sky, a lightning bolt as thick as an arm struck directly at Lu Ming. He activated his thunder concept, and a lightning bolt as thick as an arm shot out and destroyed the lightning bolt. Lightning flashed in the sky, and the next moment, another lightning struck. Lu Ming activated the thunder concept to resist. Such a strong thunder mentality. This is a good place to comprehend the thunder mentality. Lu Ming smiled. He was not in a hurry to move forward. Instead, he landed in the swamp below. He stepped on the water surface and moved forward slowly while comprehending the thunder concept. A moment later, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. What a strong water mentality. The water mentality here is even stronger than the thunder mentality, Lu Ming thought to himself, his eyes shining with hope. He planned to comprehend the concept of water. Now that the War of Providence had ended, there was no need to rush to increase his cultivation in the short term. Lu Ming planned to take this opportunity to comprehend the concept of water. Since he had the 9-dragon bloodline to devour, comprehending one more concept would not affect his cultivation speed too much. Moreover, if he comprehended one more intent realm and fused 5 of them together, the power would be even stronger. After making his decision, Lu Ming closed his eyes and began to comprehend. With the blessing of fate, Lu Ming's comprehension ability had increased by 10 times. He was more in tune with the heaven and earth, and his comprehension speed was shocking. First, it was the force of water. In just a day's time, Lu Ming had successfully comprehended the force of water and reached the elementary level. Next, I'll have to fuse the force of water with the other intent realms. There's endless thunder here, so I can use the power of thunder to fuse my intent realms, Lu Ming thought to himself. Buzz! He flew up and rushed into the sky. Kaila! Kaila! In the sky, endless lightning bolts struck toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming released the force of water and 4 other concepts. However, Lu Ming did not unleash much power from the other 4 concepts. He only used them for defense. He mainly used the lightning to bombard the force of water and the 4 concepts to achieve the effect of tempering. Boom! 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 The thunderous rumbles continued, and the lightning bolts continued to strike. The intent realm and momentum were both shaking. Not enough. The power of the lightning is not enough. Continue upwards. Lu Ming continued to fly upwards. The closer he got to the clouds, the more terrifying the power of the lightning became. It kept bombarding the intent realm and the force of water. Right, this is the feeling. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Now, his comprehension had increased tenfold, and even the speed at which he fused intents had increased greatly. He could fuse intents more effectively, faster, and more effectively. With the help of the lightning, Lu Ming continued to temper himself. In a short 10 days, Lu Ming had successfully fused the force of water with the 4 concepts. This speed was already extremely shocking. After the fusion was successful, Lu Ming could continue to improve his water concept. Moreover, he had many water-type profound meaning crystals with him. In combination with the environment, his terrifying comprehension ability, and the path understanding ancient tree, Lu Ming's speed of improvement was simply terrifying. It was as if he was riding a rocket. Lu Ming was cultivating in the water as he advanced. 3 days later, Lu Ming condensed the water concept rune in one go and raised his water concept to level 1. After that, the speed of his improvement had been increasing by leaps and bounds. It was only when his water concept reached level 2 that the speed of improvement slowed down. This was because at level 2, one couldn't just rely on intent crystals. Lu Ming stayed in the swamp for another half a month. His water concept had already been cultivated to level 2 upper tier. At this moment, Lu Ming had just crossed the swamp and arrived at an area with a more complicated terrain. In this area, there were swamps filled with poisonous gas, terrifying storms, and even areas filled with blood chi. Once, he was almost cut in half by a blood-red sword light. The blood-red sword light was not man-made, but rushed out of a blood lake. The sword light had at least reached the level of a spiritual god. Lu Ming did not move quickly. He cultivated as he hurried on his way. He had left the talisman amulet sect with the goal of cultivating. Although the chaotic domain was somewhat dangerous, it was still quite good for cultivation. During this period, he didn't only cultivate the water concept. He cultivated and comprehended all the other concepts. He had some high-grade intent crystals, which he had taken from his enemies in the Battle of Providence, such as Luo Tian and Wang Fenshen. High-grade intent crystals were more useful than middle-grade spirit stones. Under normal circumstances, low-grade intent crystals were for kings, and they were extremely helpful in cultivating first-level intent. Middle-grade intent crystals corresponded to the Sea of Soul realm, and they were helpful for level 2 intent. High-grade profound meaning crystals corresponded to the spirit embryo realm and were helpful to level 3 intent. As for supreme-grade intent crystals, they were equivalent to level 4 intent. And NBSB, of course, once one reached the third level intent, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. Just relying on high-grade intent crystals wasn't enough, but cultivating with high-grade intent crystals would still be much faster. Just like that, Lu Ming hurried on his journey while cultivating. The essence realm of heaven and earth and martial techniques were not left behind. Danden's perception was very strong. Sometimes, when they encountered powerful existences, they would all go far away. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in the chaos realm for 3 months. Along the way, Lu Ming had experienced many things and encountered all kinds of terrain. Even though he could sense danger, he had encountered danger more than 10 times. The most dangerous time was when the sky suddenly split open and endless flames poured down. If it were not for Lu Ming's sharp spiritual senses and quick reactions to avoid it from a distance, he would have been in danger that time. That was because the flames were extremely terrifying. They poured down from the sky and turned an area of 100,000 miles into lava. Lu Ming broke out in cold sweat at the sight. Of course, Lu Ming had also gained a lot along the way. The wind, fire, and thunder intents had all reached the peak of level 3 and were about to break through to level 4. His earth mentality had also reached the peak of level 3 upper tier. As for the water concept, it had also broken through 3 levels and was now at the beginning of level 3. It was already very terrifying for the water concept to reach this stage so quickly. This was because Lu Ming had comprehended it on his own and not by devouring the 9-dragon bloodline. However, his cultivation didn't increase and remained at the early stage of the 8th level spirit embryo realm. His cultivation would only continue to improve when the water concept had caught up with the other concepts. In addition to these, in terms of martial techniques, he was getting closer and closer to the 7th step of the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps. He believed that it would not take long for him to successfully cultivate the 7th step. Chapter 990. 990 Twin Sisters. Other than the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps, Lu Ming had also cultivated another martial arts technique. Dazzling Dragon Spear Art. This was a high-grade demigod-level martial arts technique that Lu Ming had obtained in the Battle of Providence. During this period of time, Lu Ming had almost cultivated it to the highest level. This was the benefit of increasing one's comprehension. In addition, he was focused on cultivating martial arts and was not distracted by the Tao of Inscription. He made rapid progress in all aspects. Roar! Roar! A mountain range appeared in front of them. On the mountain range, cranes stood on the peaks, and ancient trees towered into the sky. There were constant roars of beasts. Finally, they came across a mountain range that was full of life. This place should be close to the central continent. According to the ancient records, as long as we cross this mountain range, we will reach the central continent. There was a look of anticipation in Lu Ming's eyes, but he did not relax. It was said that there were powerful ferocious beasts living in the mountain range near the central continent. Some of them could tear apart spiritual god realm powerhouses. Lu Ming did not dare to let his guard down. Lu Ming concealed his aura and rushed into the mountain range. Not long after he entered the mountain range, Lu Ming was attacked by a powerful beast. He killed it and devoured its demonic power and blood essence. The blood essence was used to improve the bloodline, and the demonic power was used to temper the body. 10 days later, in a hidden crack in a rock, a scroll floated. It was the mountain and river diagram, and Lu Ming was cultivating in it. Buzz! Above his head, the prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline floated, flashing and shaking slightly. 4 golden chakra glowed, but after a while, another golden chakra spread out. The 5th golden chakra, the prison-suppressing Steely bloodline, had also reached level 5 of the divine level. During this period of time, almost all the blood essence that Lu Ming devoured had been used to upgrade the prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline. Let's see how powerful the prison-suppressing heavenly art has become. Lu Ming got up and struck with his palm. Sila. The space twisted rapidly, and a mountain in the distance collapsed. The increase doesn't seem to be that terrifying. According to this increase, if I use it with all my strength, its power should be equivalent to the mid-level power of a low-grade divine martial technique. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Previously, when the prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline was at divine level 4, the power of the prison-suppressing heavenly technique was equivalent to the first stage of a low-grade divine-level martial arts technique. Lu Ming had thought that the power of the prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline would be equivalent to the sixth stage of a low-grade divine-level martial arts technique. However, from the looks of it now, it had yet to reach that level. It seemed to be at about the fourth stage. It was estimated that the power of the prison-suppressing heaven technique would only reach the sixth stage of a low-grade divine-level martial technique when he reached level 6. Divine level 7 could reach the level of high-grade divine-level martial techniques. A high-grade god-level martial technique was a martial technique that could only be successfully cultivated by an emperor. I don't know what's going on with my third bloodline. It can't be awakened yet. At this moment, Lu Ming frowned again. Up until now, his third bloodline had not been awakened. It seemed to be still in the process of being nurtured. This made Lu Ming speechless. The other geniuses had already awakened their third bloodline. Most of the elites would awaken their third bloodline at the spiritual ocean tier. Only a small number of them would awaken their third bloodline at the spirit embryo tier. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had already reached the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, but his third bloodline had yet to awaken. This made him a little depressed. Could it be that the third bloodline could only be awakened when one reached the spiritual god realm? In history, it was extremely rare to awaken the third bloodline in the spiritual god realm. Forget it. It's useless to think so much. Let nature take its course. I have the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Even if I can't awaken the third bloodline, I won't be worse than others, Lu Ming thought to himself. Then, he exited the mountain and river diagram and continued to move forward in the mountain range. Central Continent, the easternmost land, was the chaotic territory near the East Barren. On the edge of a majestic mountain range, 2 young women were carefully running through the forest. These 2 women were about 20 years old and looked almost identical. One look and one could tell that they were twin sisters. The 2 of them had jade-like skin and unparalleled beauty. Both of them were extremely beautiful, but at this moment, both of them had a serious expression on their faces. They concealed their auras and moved forward carefully. "Achoo, be careful, don't run too fast," one of the women whispered. "Lei, don't worry. This is just the outer area of the chaotic mountains. There won't be any strong beasts here." The other girl was more lively. She smiled and said in a low voice, "We've been here for a few days, but we haven't seen the poisonous rainbow snake. We don't know where it is either." The woman called Lei sighed in a low voice. "Lei, do you think that's why we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake because we're on the outskirts of the mountain range? If we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake, then we can't find the accompanying spirit medicine to cure Grandpa's poison. Lei, should we go deeper into the mountain range?" said A Ching. "Yes, that's the only way. But don't be reckless, A Ching. We'll slow down," Miss Lei said. Then, the 2 girls carefully went deeper into the mountain range, carefully avoiding a few powerful beasts. Roar. Suddenly, a deafening roar of a beast came from the depths of the mountain. The roar of a beast sounded like a thunderclap. A vast demonic power soared into the sky, and a terrifying spatial crack appeared in the sky. The clouds were directly swallowed by the spatial crack and disappeared without a trace. Roar. Then, the roars sounded again, as if they were filled with endless anger. The entire mountain range trembled and made a loud rumbling sound. Even though they were separated by a great distance, the 2 girls' faces still changed greatly. They immediately turned white, without a trace of blood. It's a level 8 vicious beast. It's enraged. "Lei, let's go." Miss Ajun's voice trembled. She didn't have the courage as before, and she pulled Miss Lei and ran back. OWW. Roar. At this moment, within the mountain range, the roars of the beasts could be heard. The roars of the beasts rang out one after another, and they seemed to be extremely frightened. The two little girls were even more shocked. They knew that the king of the mountain range was furious, and the beasts were frightened. Many powerful vicious beasts were probably going to run away in all directions, making it extremely dangerous. The two little girls used all their strength to run out of the mountain range. Boom! 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 In all directions, there were fierce beasts running away. Fortunately, these fierce beasts seemed to be scared out of their wits and ignored the two sisters, so the two sisters were safe. Roar! Roar! That earth-shaking roar came from the depths of the forest. It was earth-shattering and its aura was terrifying. The two sisters ran for an hour before they ran out of the mountain range and arrived outside. At this time, the two of them let out a long sigh of relief. They were safe for the time being. Lei, what's going on? Why would a level 8 vicious beast suddenly become so angry? Seeing that she was out of danger, Miss Ajun's mind became active again, and her big eyes were full of curiosity. I don't know. Luo, it seems like we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake. What about Grandpa's poison? Lei sighed, and the two sisters' eyes dimmed again. Their cultivation was too low, so they didn't dare to go too deep into the mountain range. Hey! There's someone in front. Suddenly, Ching exclaimed. Chapter 991. 991 to the Central Continent. A black-robed young man rushed out of the forest in front of them. His body was in tatters and blood was flowing out. On the black-robed young man's shoulder was a little turtle, its claws gripping tightly onto the young man's shoulder. Its eyes were rolled back, and its body was twitching. Bang! The black-robed young man's speed was extremely fast. He rushed out of the forest and then fell heavily to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Then, he just lay there. Dandan, I was almost killed by you this time. The young man lying on the ground said weakly. This young man was Lu Ming, who had crossed the Chaos Realm. At this moment, another 7 days had passed since Lu Ming's prison-suppressing steely bloodline had leveled up. Just as they were about to cross the mountain range and enter the Central Continent, they encountered a powerful beast. It was a second-tier 8th-level beast, equivalent to a second-level spiritual god. Originally, they could have gone around this beast, but they just happened to discover that this beast was guarding 2 Holy Spirit ginseng. These 2 Saint spiritual ginsengs were the highest grade of level 8 spiritual herbs. Even a peak spiritual god would be moved by them. Therefore, Dandan was tempted. She secretly went to dig up the 2 Holy Spirit ginseng but was discovered by the powerful beast. The beast went crazy and chased after Dandan. In the end, even Lu Ming was implicated. Lu Ming had used all his means to escape from the ferocious beast's demonic claws. However, he had also suffered severe injuries. Many of his bones were broken and his internal organs were injured. There was not much vital energy left and his breathing was extremely weak. Dandan wasn't any better. After being hit by the fierce beast a few times, she was almost blown apart. At this time, her whole body was twitching non-stop. Spiritual god-level existences were too powerful. Lu Ming was not their match at all. Take the human race's martial artists as an example. Those who could step into the spiritual god realm were at least divine-level prodigies. Most of them had awakened the second-class divine level, and some had even awakened the third-class divine level or above bloodline. It was no problem for such a prodigy to cross 2 to 3 realms to fight an enemy in the spirit embryo realm. It was the same for fierce beasts and demonic beasts. They all had a few % of the bloodline of a divine beast in their bodies, and they were extremely powerful. In addition, there was a huge chasm between the spirit embryo realm and the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's current cultivation was only at the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, so it was difficult for him to cross such a huge gap. During the War of Providence, the three-eyed god race fought for the last totem pillar in the three-eyed god race's royal city. The reason why the Emperor God and the others were able to stop the three-eyed god race's most powerful being was that the three-eyed god race's expert had yet to fully enter the spiritual god realm. He was only half a step into the spiritual god realm, which was why the Emperor God and the others were able to fight him. In that world, the three-eyed god race would be suppressed by the laws of that world the moment they entered the spiritual god realm. If he was a spiritual god expert, the divine emperor and the others would not have been able to stop him. Furthermore, the ferocious beast that Lu Ming had faced previously was equivalent to a second-level spiritual god realm, which was even more powerful. It was already very difficult for Lu Ming to escape with his life. Lu Ming, don't blame me. We'll each take one of the 2 holy spirit ginsengs. Dandan's body twitched as she spoke. Lu Ming could not be bothered to say anything more to Eggie. He just lay there, closed his eyes, and channeled his energy to heal his injuries. Not far away, 2 young women were watching curiously. Lei, there's still some sound. He doesn't seem to be dead. Let's go and take a look. See if we can help him, said Ching. Yes, Ching, be careful. In comparison, Miss Lei was more timid and shy. The 2 young ladies approached Lu Ming carefully. When they saw that Lu Ming's eyes were closed and his body was covered in blood, a hint of pity flashed in their eyes. He seems to be seriously injured, but he's still breathing. He seems to be unconscious. Why don't we carry him back to the city? If he's left here alone, he'll definitely be eaten by the beast. Millimeter, sure. Our Lei nodded. The 2 young ladies were kind-hearted and they walked toward Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. The 2 young ladies shrieked in fear and retreated hurriedly, their faces as white as snow. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. These 2 young ladies were really timid. However, Lu Ming was a little surprised that they dared to come to this dangerous mountain range. Don't be afraid, I have no ill intentions. Lu Ming forced himself to stand up and smiled. Lu Ming used his mind to scan the area and realized that the 2 young ladies' cultivation levels were at the perfected spiritual ocean realm. They could be considered geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory. Don't be afraid, Lei. His cultivation is probably not as good as ours, Ching said in a small voice. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura was extremely weak. He gave off the feeling that his cultivation level was indeed low and he was not even comparable to the 2 young ladies. Lu Ming naturally heard this but he did not defend himself. Were you injured by a demonic beast in the mountain range? With your cultivation level, you still dare to go deeper than us. Don't you know it's very dangerous? Miss Ching blinked her eyes and said, I have no other choice but to go deep into the mountains. Lu Ming casually gave a reason. Oh, it seems like you've entered the mountains for an important matter just like us. Ian, do you know why that level 8 vicious beast went crazy? Ching asked curiously. Naturally, she did not expect that the level 8 beast's rage was because of Lu Ming. She thought that Lu Ming had been injured by other weaker beasts. I don't know either. Lu Ming shook his head. Well, forget it. I see that you are quite seriously injured. Where are you from? Do you need us to send you back? Ching asked. After chatting for a while, the 2 young ladies felt that Lu Ming did not seem to be a bad person. They became bolder and walked closer to Lu Ming to chat with him. My home is far from here. I'm afraid I can't go back for the time being. Lu Ming smiled. Oh, in that case, why don't you come with us to the Lishui city first? It's the closest to here, so you can go there to recuperate. It's still not safe here, and I don't know if the beast will go crazy again, Ching said. Good. Thank you both. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. It was Lu Ming's first time in the central continent. He was unfamiliar with the people and the place. He really needed to find a place to stay temporarily and understand the situation in the central continent before making his next plans. Moreover, he could also find a place to recuperate, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. What's your name? Ching asked. I'm Lu Shaoqing. May I know your names? Lu Ming casually said a name. There were probably spies from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace in the central continent. Lu Ming did not intend to use his real name. I'm Xiao Yi, you can call me Ah Yi. This is my sister Xiao Lei, you can call her Ah Lei, Ching said. Lu Ming realized that Erin was lively, cheerful, and talkative. On the other hand, Lei was a lot more shy. She did not talk much and only sized Lu Ming up curiously. Hearing Ah Luo's words, Ah Lei whispered, I'm clearly the older sister. Ah Luo glared at her. Lei, you're talking nonsense. I'm clearly your sister. I've always been the one taking care of you, but Grandpa said I was born a moment earlier than you. Lei retorted in a low voice. Grandpa, that's nonsense. Chmph, I don't care. I'm the older sister. Lu Shaoqing, just remember that I'm the older sister. Aiqing pouted. Lu Ming found it a little funny. These two young girls were really naive and did not have many schemes. Chapter 992. 992 Chapter 992 Lishui City. Miss Alei, please wait for me for a while. I'll go to Lishui City with you when my injuries are more stable. Lu Ming said. Ian, you should recuperate. We'll help you keep a lookout, Anan said. She then walked to the side with Alei to keep a lookout for Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and closed his eyes to recuperate. After a period of cultivation, Lu Ming's body had reached the peak of the 8th grade and his recovery ability was extremely shocking. Combined with the True War Dragon technique, he began to recover at an extremely fast speed. After half an hour, Lu Ming's injuries had stabilized and he had recovered 20% of his essential core. Of course, with a Ku and Alei's cultivation, they could not tell Lu Ming's cultivation realm. Miss Alei, I'm almost done. We can go now, Lu Ming said. So fast? Qing asked in surprise. I'm not too seriously injured. I'll recuperate in Lishui City, Lu Ming said. Oh, that's good. Is your little turtle all right? Erin looked at Dandan who was on Lu Ming's shoulder. At this time, Dandan was still twitching. It's fine, this guy will be fine after twitching, Lu Ming said casually, which made Dandan gnash her teeth. What did he mean by just twitching? Then, the three of them took to the air and left for Lishui City. After flying for tens of thousands of miles, what appeared in front of them were large rivers and lakes that dotted the ground. From the sky, they looked like pearls. This was a water village. The three of them chatted as they hurried on their way. Lu Ming roughly knew the location of this place. The strongest force in this water village was the Floating Mountain Sect. The Floating Mountain Sect was one of the overlords of the Central Continent. In fact, Lu Ming had already gained a general understanding of the Central Continent before he came. The Central Continent was extremely vast, at least 7 to 8 times larger than the East Continent. Furthermore, the land was blessed with many talents. There were countless paradises and blessed lands. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rich. The practice of cultivation was flourishing. There had always been countless geniuses and experts. It was the center of the divine wilderness continent. In the Central Continent, whether it was the number of geniuses or the quality, the East Continent could not compare. The ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent was undoubtedly the most ancient and largest power in the Central Continent. In fact, the Central Continent had been completely under the rule of the ancient Saint dynasty tens of thousands of years ago. The ancient Saint dynasty had a long history, and it was said that it had been passed down for 1,000,000 years. In this 1,000,000 years, the Central Continent had been completely under the rule of the ancient Saint dynasty. It was prosperous and extremely powerful. There were many geniuses and powerful cultivators, far above the East Baron. At that time, not only the Central Continent, even the East Baron, the South Nether and the other 4 territories had to bow down to the ancient Saint dynasty. However, all of this had changed drastically tens of thousands of years ago. Tens of thousands of years ago, an unrivaled figure had appeared in the Xie clan of the ancient Saint dynasty. He had started a rebellion, and an unprecedented civil war had broken out in the ancient Saint dynasty. That battle was earth-shattering. Countless experts were killed or injured, and even many emperors fell. After that battle, the power of the ancient Saint dynasty's royal family declined rapidly and they could no longer control the vast Central Continent. After that, Central Continent entered the era of various emperors. For tens of thousands of years, the various overlord forces had ruled their own territories and fought for supremacy. In addition to these overlord forces, there were countless smaller forces that relied on the overlord forces and fought endlessly. The Central Continent was more chaotic than the East Continent. The floating mountain sect occupied the vast territory of the eastern part of the central continent. It was an overlord of a region and had an emperor overseeing it. Its strength was incomparably powerful and wasn't any weaker than the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace or the Heavenly Corpse sect. Lizhui City was a city under the jurisdiction of the floating mountain sect, and the Xiao family, where the two sisters were from, was a small family in the city. The two sisters of the Xiao family were very innocent and did not have any schemes. They felt that Lu Ming was a good person and treated him as a friend. They would answer whatever Lu Ming asked. During the conversation, Lu Ming learned that their mother had passed away after they were born. Their father had also passed away a few years ago when he was out adventuring. They had been following their grandfather, the head of the Xiao family, Xiao Zhan. But some time ago, Xiao Zhan entered the chaotic mountains in search of an elixir. Unexpectedly, he was bitten by a poisonous rainbow snake and was still in a coma. The two sisters had come to the chaotic mountains to find the nest of the poisonous rainbow snake and the accompanying elixir to save Xiao Zhan. Unfortunately, after many days of searching, they had not even found the shadow of the poisonous rainbow snake. It was only later that they met Lu Ming. "Maybe I can cure your grandfather's poison," Lu Ming said. This caused the Xiao sisters to pause, and their eyes widened. Can you really save him?" The alchemist said that my grandfather's poison has already spread to his entire body. Unless you have the accompanying spirit medicine of the poisonous rainbow snake, it will be difficult to save him. As they spoke, the two sisters' eyes began to turn red again. "I've cultivated a secret technique and I'm quite experienced in detoxification," Lu Ming said. The bloodline of the 9 dragons could devour all kinds of poisonous gas and poison. When others were poisoned, they could also devour the poisonous gas. "Really? You're not allowed to side with us." Eren's eyes were filled with hope. The two sisters looked at Lu Ming without blinking. Lu Ming nodded solemnly. "That's great." The two sisters smiled happily. 2 days later, Li Water City appeared in front of them. Lizhui City was very magnificent. Although it could not be compared to a giant city like 9 dragons, it was still a big deal and was extremely wide. On the streets, people came and went, each one of them in high spirits and full of energy. The number of experts was very large. Lu Ming had only strolled along one street and he had already discovered many spirit embryo realm experts. There was a forest of shops on both sides of the street. Lu Ming looked around curiously. The customs of the central continent were very different from that of the east continent. After passing through a few streets, a huge mansion appeared in front of them. They had arrived at the Xiao family. The two sisters were the precious granddaughters of the Xiao family's master. Naturally, they did not stop Lu Ming from following the two sisters into the Xiao family. However, when he walked past a courtyard, he was stopped by a young man. The young man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was wearing a long green robe, a jade belt around his waist, and a pair of golden boots. He exuded a rich and powerful aura. Desolate Ning. Upon seeing this young man, the two sisters frowned slightly. "Ah Luo, Ah Lei, where have you been these past few days?" the young man asked. "It's none of your business where we go," Eren pouted and said. "Why should I care? Don't you know that the future of House Xiao is at stake right now? If anything happens to you, you won't be able to bear the consequences." Desolate Ning's eyes turned cold as he said. "Ch, what future of the Xiao family?" "It's your future," Qing said sarcastically. "I can't be bothered to talk to you." Desolate Ning opened the fan in his hand and started to wave it gently. Then, he turned to look at Lu Ming and frowned. "Who is this person?" "Achoo, don't bring any Tom, Dick, or Harry into the family. Others will laugh at you if they know. This is a friend of mine and Lei's. He's here to treat his injuries. It's none of your business. Also, Big Brother Lu can cure grandfather's poison. Ch, he'll be an important guest of the Xiao family." Qing raised her head and said proudly. Chapter 993. 993 Being Made Difficult. Lu Ming stood at the side and watched quietly without saying a word. Alei explained to him in a low voice. This man was their second uncle's son, their cousin, and they had never been on good terms. It can cure grandfather's poison? Nonsense, many alchemists couldn't cure it, so how could this brat? Don't be fooled by this kid. Desolate Ning raised his eyebrows and shouted. Mitch, Big Brother Lu is our friend. Why would he lie to us? Besides, if we don't let Big Brother Lu try, how would we know if he can't do it? All right, get out of the way. Having said that, Ching pulled Lu Ming and walked around Desolate Ning, heading inside. Desolate Ning's face was gloomy. Aaron led Lu Ming past a few courtyards and finally came to a guest room. Brother Lu, you can stay here and recuperate. It won't be too late to cure my grandfather's poison after you've recovered. All right. Lu Ming nodded. After chatting for a while more, the two sisters left. Lu Ming entered the room and closed the door. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began to channel his energy to heal his injuries. The War Dragon True energy circulated throughout his body and seeped deep into his body. Lu Ming's injuries were healing rapidly. In fact, during the 2 days on the road, Lu Ming's body had been recovering on its own. By now, he had recovered a lot. Bang! More than 10 minutes later, Lu Ming was recuperating when the door was pushed open. A young man was standing at the door with a cold face. Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. He opened his eyes, and a cold glint flashed across them. Desolate Ning. The one who pushed open his door was Desolate Ning. Fortunately, Lu Ming's ability to control himself was strong enough. He was also distracted and did not devote himself to it. Otherwise, if he was disturbed during his cultivation, he would be injured at the very least, or even suffer from qi deviation in the worst case. What do you want? Lu Ming asked. Kid, what's your purpose in coming to the Xiao family? Don't tell me you think that our Zhan and our Lei are innocent and want to lie to them. Let me tell you, if you have this idea, you're wrong. Desolate Ning said coldly. Brother Xiao, you've misunderstood. I'm friends with Miss Alei and a Zhan. I've been injured, so I want to use the Xiao family to heal my injuries. I happen to know some ways to detoxify the poison. I heard that the old man of the Xiao family was poisoned by the seven-colored snake, so I wanted to see if I could help him detoxify it. Lu Ming cupped his fists and explained with a smile. Shut up, who do you think you are? Are you worthy of being my brother? Don't think that I don't know that you're intentionally trying to get close to those two girls because of their looks and innocence. There's no way you're getting close to them. You'd better leave the Xiao family quickly, otherwise. Desolate Ning sneered. Desolate Ning, what are you doing? A delicate voice was heard, and then two beautiful figures appeared. It was our Luo and our Lei. Xiao Ning, Big Brother Lu is our friend. If you let him go again, I might turn against you. The two sisters walked over, and Ching gritted her teeth. Seeing our Luo and her sister coming over, Xiao Ning knew that he had missed the opportunity. He snorted coldly, waved his sleeves and strode away. I heard someone say that Xiao Ning was coming this way, so I knew that something bad was going to happen. Fortunately, we arrived in time. Brother Lu, are you all right? Ching said with some concern. I'm fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Ian, I will have people keep an eye on Desolate Ning for the next few days. If he comes again, I'll definitely turn against him. So you should rest well. Having said that, the two sisters bade Lu Ming farewell. After Lu Ming returned to his room, he continued to cultivate and heal his injuries. After that, no one bothered Lu Ming anymore. 3 days later, Lu Ming's injuries had fully recovered. As for Dandan, he had thrown her into the mountain and river diagram to let her recover on her own. This fellow's vitality was extremely tenacious, and nothing would happen to him. After Lu Ming recovered, he found a En and a Lei and went to their grandfather's room together. The Xiao family's old man lived in the Xiao family's main residence. The three of them were stopped as soon as they arrived. One of them was Desolate Ning, and the other was a middle-aged man in his 50s with a cold expression. Second uncle. Ching's expression changed slightly. This person was Ching's second uncle, Xiao Hongyun. The old man of the Xiao family had 2 sons. One was the father of a Ku and a Lei, and the other was Xiao Hongyun. Our Zhan, our Lei, the place where father recuperates is right in front. What do you want to do by bringing a stranger here? Xiao Hongyun said with a straight face. Our Lei's body trembled slightly, and she took a step back. She was clearly a little afraid of Xiao Hongyun. Aiqing was much more courageous. She took a step forward and said, "Second uncle, this is our friend, Lu Shaoqing. Big brother Lu can cure grandfather's poison, so we brought him here to help him." Nonsense. Xiao Hongyun flicked his sleeve and berated, "We've invited many alchemists and apothecaries over this period of time, and we've tried many methods, but none of them could cure your grandfather's poison. How could this kid possibly cure your grandfather's poison? These two little girls don't know the evil of the world. Be careful not to be deceived. Second uncle, you're thinking too much. Why would big brother Lu lie to us? Why don't we let him try? It's not like we'll lose anything." Aiqing argued. Xiao Hongyun's face darkened. He looked at Lu Ming and said, "Kid, are you an inscriber?" "No." Lu Ming said indifferently. He had thought that since he was new here, he should be more polite to others. He did not make a fuss about it with the Xiao family on account of the sisters, our Lei and our Luo. However, Xiao Hongyun and his son had repeatedly made things difficult for him and spoke unkindly. Lu Ming could not help but feel a little angry. Naturally, his tone was not very good. "Haha, since you're not an inscription master, how can you claim that you can cure my father? What a joke. Hurry up and leave the Xiao family, and I'll let this matter go." Xiao Hongyun laughed contemptuously and waved his hand. "Who said that one has to be an inscription master to cure the poison? I have a secret technique that can easily detoxify the poison," Lu Ming said. "Nonsense, you're talking big." Desolate Ning interrupted sarcastically. "We believe in Big Brother Lu. Besides, second uncle also said that we've invited so many alchemists over this period of time, but none of them could cure grandfather's poison. Are we just going to let it go and let grandfather die from the poison? At this moment, we must seize any chance. I must let brother Lu give it a try. If you are worried, you can watch from the side," Aiqing said, her gaze extremely firm. Our Lei also stepped forward and stared at Xiao Hongyun. Xiao Hongyun frowned and muttered to himself, "All right, let him try. We'll watch from the side." But an alchemist just came and fed father an antidote pill. "We'll see how it goes today. If father doesn't get better by tomorrow, we'll let this kid try." "All right, tomorrow it is." Aiqing was overjoyed. "Also, don't run around these few days. After a few days, pack your things and follow me to the floating mountain to see young Master Ling Yunkong." Xiao Hongyun changed the topic. Upon hearing this, the two sisters' expressions changed greatly. "No, I will never go to the floating mountain to see Ling Yunkong," Aiqing called out. "Nonsense. Who is young Master Ling Yunkong?" He's one of the top 10 young Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School. His innate talent is unparalleled and rarely seen in the world. For him to have taken a fancy to you guys, it's your 8 lifetimes worth of good fortune. Don't you know how to treasure it? Let me tell you, this is a matter of the Xiao family's future. You can't afford to throw a tantrum. You have to go even if you don't want to. We'll set off in 7 days. With that, Xiao Hongyun waved his sleeves and strode away. Desolate Ning smiled complacently and left as well. Chapter 994. 994 Chapter 994 Detoxification. The two sisters, our Luo and our Lei, had red eyes, tears welling up in them. "Arjun, our Lei, what's going on?" Lu Ming asked. "Mph, it's all because of that desolate Ning. He wanted to give us to Ling Yunkong for his own future." Anan wiped her tears and explained to Lu Ming. It turned out that Xiao Ning was also a disciple of the Floating Mountain Martial School. However, the Floating Mountain Martial School was a colossus with many geniuses and geniuses. Desolate Ning's talent was average. He was just an ordinary disciple in the Floating Mountain sect and was not valued at all. However, he knew how to conduct himself and flatter others. He had used some unknown method to befriend Ling Yunkong, one of the 10 Heavens Pride experts of the Floating Mountain sect, and had even run errands for Ling Yunkong. Once, Xiao Ning brought Ling Yunkong to the Xiao family as a guest. The entire Xiao family was shocked and threw a huge banquet to welcome Ling Yunkong. At the banquet, Ling Yunkong had his eyes on the two sisters, Lei and Luo. For such a good thing, Xiao Ning would naturally help to introduce him. Ling Yunkong, the peerless Heavens Pride expert of the Floating Mountain Martial School. Even in the Battle of Providence in the Central Continent, he had achieved extraordinary results. Which young girl wouldn't like Heaven's Pride experts and worship peerless geniuses? Aku and Lei naturally agreed to be acquainted with Ling Yunkong. However, he later found out that Ling Yunkong actually wanted to marry both of them. Yes, both of them. This made the two sisters Lei and Aku very disappointed in Ling Yunkong. Later on, they found out that Ling Yunkong was not a reliable person. He had already married 7 to 8 concubines. In this case, the two sisters would naturally not agree to it. However, Xiao Ning had finally managed to climb up to Ling Yunkong's high position. How could he miss out on such a rare opportunity? As long as Ling Yunkong married these two beautiful sisters, he would definitely reward him handsomely and value him even more in the future. Then, he, Desolate Ning, would be able to rise up the ranks in the Floating Mountain sect. Therefore, Xiao Ning and Xiao Hongyun had been trying their best to marry the two sisters to Ling Yunkong. However, the old man of the Xiao family, Xiao Zhon, was strongly against it. Thus, this matter had been dragged on. Now that Xiao Zhon was poisoned and unconscious, how could Xiao Ning and Xiao Hongyun miss this opportunity? Naturally, they began to urge the two sisters to marry Ling Yunkong. Lu Ming nodded and came to a sudden realization. No wonder the two sisters had such a bad relationship with Xiao Ning. So this was the reason. The three of them chatted and then returned to their rooms. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning walked around a few courtyards and chatted with each other. Father, why did you agree to let that brat cure Grandpa's poison? If that brat really cured Grandpa's poison, with his bad temper, he would definitely object to us giving the two girls, Zhen and Lei, to Ling Yunkong. Desolate Ning said anxiously. Why are you so anxious? The 7-colored poisonous snake is extremely rare and its poison is very special. Now, the poison has spread to the old man's body, penetrating into his muscles, bones, and blood. We've invited so many alchemists and pharmacists, but none of them could do anything. How could that brat detoxify the poison? In my opinion, that brat has taken a fancy to Zhen, and he just wants to show off in front of them. When he fails to detoxify the poison tomorrow, we'll find a reason to kick him out of the Xiao family, Xiao Hongyun said. Father is right. Desolate Ning revealed a happy smile. The day passed quickly, and the next day, the poison in Old Master Xiao showed no signs of subsiding. The next afternoon, Lu Ming, the sisters, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning, went to Old Master Xiao's room together. Lu Ming opened the door and saw an old man lying on the bed. The old man looked to be in his 60s and had a burly figure, but his aura was weak now. His body was covered with multicolored spots. The 7 colors covered his entire body, making him look extremely strange. This was the poison of the poisonous rainbow snake. Grandpa. Seeing Xiao Zhon's appearance, the sisters felt a great pain in their hearts. Their eyes turned red and tears flowed down uncontrollably. The poisonous rainbow snake's poison has spread to every part of his body. It's even in his muscles, bones, and blood. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. The old man was deeply poisoned. If not for his profound cultivation, he would have died long ago. Even so, he would not be able to hold on for long. Lu Ming predicted that the old man would die from the poison in a month at most. Big brother Lu, are you confident that you can save my grandfather? Aiqing said with a sobbing tone. I'll try my best. Lu Ming said and walked over. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming's true energy spread out and supported Xiao Zhon's body. Xiao Zhon sat up on the bed, and Lu Ming sat cross-legged behind him. His palm was on Xiao Zhon's back, and the devouring power suddenly burst out. The devouring power wrapped around Xiaozhan's body and seeped into every inch of his skin, bones, flesh, and blood. The sisters, Our Luo and Our Lei, as well as Xiao Hongyun and his son, were all staring at Lu Ming nervously. However, the four of them were nervous about different things. Our Luo and Our Lei were nervous because they were afraid that Lu Ming could not cure Xiaozhan's poison. Xiao Hongyun and his son were nervous because they were afraid that Lu Ming had cured Xiaozhan of his poison. The poison. The poisoners starting to get rid of the poison. Suddenly, Eren's eyes lit up and she said in a trembling voice. First of all, the multicolored spots on Xiaozhan's face began to fade, as if something was sucking them out of his body. How is that possible? Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's expressions changed drastically, revealing a look of disbelief. Could it be that Lu Ming could really cure Xiaozhan's poison? The eyes of the two of them flashed with all kinds of glints, and they were a little cold. The sisters, Our Luo and Our Lei, were overjoyed. They clasped their hands tightly together and looked at Lu Ming and Xiaozhan with hope. As time passed, the colors on Xiaozhan's face became more and more faint, and the aura on Xiaozhan's body became stronger and stronger. Half an hour later, all the colors on Xiaozhan's face had disappeared. The other colorful spots on his body also disappeared. Xiaozhan's breathing became even, and he could even hear the thumping of his heart. Who? Lu Ming heaved a long sigh and stopped devouring. Xiaozhan's poison was unexpectedly difficult to detoxify. It had penetrated into every inch of his flesh and blood. Even with the devouring power of the 9-dragon bloodline, it took him half an hour. But in the end, Xiaozhan's poison had been completely devoured by the bloodline of the 9 dragons and refined into nothing. Big brother Lu, my grandfather's poison. Aiqing asked with some concern. Your grandfather's poison has been completely removed by me, and he'll wake up soon. However, Senior Xiao has been poisoned for so many days, and his body is very weak. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to recover to his peak in a short time. He'll need some time to recuperate, Lu Ming said with a smile. The poison is cured. That's great, the poison is cured, thank you, big brother Lu. Aiqing smiled and was extremely excited. Our Lei was the same, her eyes filled with joy. However, Xiao Hongyun and his son were the complete opposite. There was not a trace of a smile in their eyes, and their eyes were very gloomy. Lu Ming got up and got off the bed. At this moment, Xiaozhan's body suddenly trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He then slowly opened his eyes. Grandpa is awake, Grandpa is awake. Grandpa. Our Luo was so excited that she almost jumped up and ran to the bed with Our Lei. Chapter 995. 995 Ridiculous to the extreme. Xiaozhan's eyes swept over the two sisters and he smiled. Our Luo, Our Lei, is my poison cured? Who helped me? He knew very well that the poisonous rainbow snake's poison was difficult to detoxify. He thought that it was impossible for him to wake up, so he was quite surprised. It's Big Brother Lu. Big Brother Lu helped you. Eren looked at Lu Ming and said. Xiaozhan also looked at Lu Ming. When he saw that Lu Ming was so young, he was also slightly stunned. He was so young. Could he be a powerful alchemist? Junior Lu Shaoqing greets Senior Xiao. Lu Ming cupped his fists slightly. There's no need to be so polite, young hero. You saved my life, so I should be bowing to you. Xiaozhan struggled and wanted to bow to Lu Ming, but he was too weak to even lift his hand. Senior, you don't have to be so polite. I'm friends with Our Luo and Our Lei. It's my duty to help. Senior, your body is weak now. You should rest well, Lu Ming said hurriedly. At this moment, Xiao Hongyun's expression changed. Then, he suddenly revealed a surprised smile and stepped forward. Father, you're awake. That's great. I've been worried about you day and night, and I can't sleep at night. Xiaozhan looked at Xiao Hongyun and nodded slightly. A dark look flashed in the depths of Xiao Hongyun's eyes, but he still had a smile on his face. Father, you've just been poisoned and your body is weak. You should rest well. We won't disturb you any longer. I'll order someone to send you some elixirs to replenish your essence and qi. Then, He looked at the sisters and said, "Ah Zhen, Ah Lei, let's go out. Don't disturb Grandpa's rest. Grandpa, have a good rest. We'll be leaving first," Ching said with some reluctance. "You can go now, young hero Lu. I'll thank you in person after I've recovered," Xiaozhon said. "Senior is too polite." Lu Ming cupped his fists and everyone left the room. "Lu Shaoqing, right? I have something to tell you." Xiao Hongyun's face turned cold as soon as he left the room. "Oh." Lu Ming nodded. The group left the main residence and went to a courtyard outside. "Lu Shaoqing, since my father's poison has been cured and you've recovered, there's no need to stay in the Xiao family any longer. Please leave." Xiao Hongyun's first sentence was to ask him to leave. The sister's eyes widened in disbelief. "Second uncle, what do you mean by this? Big brother Lu has just cured Grandpa's poison and you're already chasing him away. He's the benefactor of our Xiao family. Is this how you treat our benefactor?" Eren said in disbelief. "What do you know at such a young age? Do you really think he's sincerely helping father detoxify? He must have a purpose for doing this." Xiao Hongyun chided him and then looked at Lu Ming. "Lu Shaoqing, you're after the two girls, aren't you? The two girls of the Xiao family are indeed outstanding beauties. You approached them on purpose and even helped my father detoxify his poison. Your goal is nothing more than to gain the favor of these two girls. You're killing two birds with one stone. These two girls are not very experienced in the world. You can hide it from them, but how can you hide it from me? Let me tell you, these two girls are already Ling Yunkong's men from the floating mountain. You'd better give up on them. Otherwise, you won't even know how you'll die. So, leave the Xiao family now." Xiao Hongyun looked at Lu Ming coldly, his tone gradually becoming more serious. Lu Ming smiled. This matter was truly too laughable. He had come to the Xiao family because Zhen and her sister had invited him. He was just looking for a place to heal his injuries and help Xiaozhon detoxify. He had originally planned to leave after curing Xiaozhon of his poison. But now, in Xiao Hongyun's eyes, he had actually become a person with ulterior motives. His goal was actually to obtain the Xiao sisters. How ridiculous was this? The Xiao family was indebted to him now, and it was fine if Xiao Hongyun didn't thank him, but he immediately asked him to leave. "All right, I'll leave immediately," Lu Ming sneered. Since they didn't welcome him, there was no need for him to stay. "Big brother Lu, don't listen to second uncle's nonsense. You saved Grandpa, and Grandpa said he would be grateful to you," Ching said anxiously. Ah Lei's eyes were also filled with anxiety. "What nonsense. You two little girls don't know what's important and what's not. You're Ling Yunkong's people now, but you're so close to this brat. What would he think if he knew about this? Do you want to put the Xiao family in danger? Do you want the Xiao family to be destroyed?" Xiao Hongyun shouted. You're talking nonsense. When did we become Ling Yunkong's people? It's all your own wishful thinking, Ching retorted loudly. Xiao Hongyun's face turned even gloomier. He looked at Lu Ming and said, "Why aren't you leaving? Don't tell me you want to stay here. Kid, you cured my grandfather's poison. This middle-grade intent crystal will be your reward. Take it and get lost." Desolate Ning waved his hand and a middle-grade profound meaning crystal flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes glowed as he smashed the ultimacy crystal into pieces. He cast a cold glance at Xiao Ning and Xiao Hongyun before he looked at Luo and her sister. "Ah Zhen, Ah Lei, thank you for your hospitality these days. Goodbye." With that, his figure moved, turning into a rainbow light and soaring into the sky, leaving the Xiao family. "Big brother Lu," Ching called out, then glared at Xiao Hongyun and his son with hatred and said, "This is how the Xiao family treats their benefactors. I'm afraid that they will become a joke if this news is spread out. Also, even if we die, we will not go to the floating mountain to see Ling Yunkong. You can give up on this idea. Ah Lei, let's go." Ching pulled A Lei and ran out of the Xiao family. Lu Ming flew all the way and flew hundreds of miles in a flash. He came to a street north of Lizhui City and chose a restaurant. He chose some side dishes and started eating. With his current state of mind, he naturally wouldn't be in a bad mood because of Xiao Hongyun and the others. The Xiao family had nothing to do with him. He was just passing by an inn. The only people he was a little worried about were Arjan and her sister. The two young girls were very innocent, and they would probably be used as tools for Xiao Hongyun and his son to advance. What's wrong? Boy, you can't let go of those two girls. No one knew when Dandan appeared on the table, but she was gnawing on a chicken leg. After a few days, Dandan's injuries had basically recovered. That's right. I'm indeed a little worried. I plan to cultivate near Lizhui City for a while. If you have time, help me keep an eye on it. Lu Ming nodded. Sure, but I can't be left out of the spirit herbs. Dandan ate until her mouth was full of oil, and in a moment, a big chicken leg was gnawed clean by Dandan. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Lu Ming found an inn nearby and checked in. In a room of the Xiao family, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning were discussing something. Damn it. I didn't expect that Lu Shaoqing could really cure the old man's poison. Xiao Hongyun's expression was dark. Father, what should we do now? When that old man wakes up, he will definitely object to us giving those two girls to Ling Yunkong. Desolate Ning said anxiously. Chapter 996. 996. The Xiao sisters are in danger. Now, we can only strike first and gain the upper hand. Go and ask Ling Yunkong to send someone to bring our Lei and our Luo to the floating mountain. Let's see how the old man will object when the raw rice is cooked. Xiao Hongyun's eyes flickered with a scheming light. All right, father, I'll do it now. Xiao Ning nodded and left the room in a hurry. Lizhui City was surrounded by swamps. Endless rivers, swamps, lakes, and land converged, and the entire territory was filled with water vapor. The next day, Lu Ming left Lizhui City and headed north. After tens of thousands of miles, countless lakes came into view. This area was called the 10,000 Lake Plains. It was said that there were more than 10,000 lakes here. There were large and small endless lakes. The large ones had a radius of 10,000 miles, while the small ones were only a few miles. They covered this vast area. Lu Ming was here to comprehend the water concept. At a glance, many figures could be seen walking on the lake. Whoosh, whoosh. From time to time, sword chi and water screens could be seen. Human warriors were killing the water demons in the lake. There were countless lakes in the 10,000 lake plain, so there were naturally many aquatic demonic beasts. Hiss! A huge catfish, more than 30 meters long, emerged from the lake. It opened its mouth wide and bit at Lu Ming, wanting to swallow him in one bite. His essential core exploded. Lu Ming took a step forward and stomped the catfish to death. Then, his devouring power burst forth and devoured the catfish's blood essence. As for the other demonic powers and blood, Lu Ming did not devour them because the scene would be too shocking and he was afraid that word would spread. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation level was difficult to improve due to his intent realm. Devouring the energy would not be of much use. Of course, there was another way for Lu Ming's water concept to improve quickly. That was to kill other martial artists and devour their concepts. There were many people who had comprehended the water mentality in the vicinity of Lizhui City, and any one of them would be one. However, Lu Ming would not do that. If it was an enemy, Lu Ming would not show any mercy. However, he would not kill others to improve his intent realm just to improve his cultivation. Stepping on the surface of the lake, he felt the water vapor in the air. Lu Ming's mind sank into it and he continued to comprehend the concept of water. Then, Lu Ming began to comprehend the concept of water in the boundless water. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming's comprehension ability was terrifying. He was making great progress every day. 7 days later, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged on a huge lake. The water in this lake was very strange. It moved without any wind, as if it had a spiritual nature. The water vapor in this lake was the thickest, and the water concept comprehended was also particularly clear. Therefore, it attracted many people to come here to cultivate. Lu Ming also sat cross-legged on the lake, quietly comprehending and comprehending. Peak of level 3 beginning. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. His water concept had already reached the peak of the 3rd level. Look, those are the disciples of the floating mountain martial school. At this moment, someone suddenly called out softly, attracting the attention of many people. They looked up at the sky. Lu Ming also looked up and saw some figures walking in the air, heading toward Lizhui City. There were a total of 8 people. They were not old, most of them in their 30s. Desolate Ning. Lu Ming frowned. He saw Desolate Ning's figure in the crowd. These are the disciples of the floating mountain martial school, and they are together with Desolate Ning. Could they be the people of Ling Yunkong? Lu Ming frowned. He thought of the sisters Ah Luo and Ah Lei. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming got up and walked on the lake, following from a distance. Soon, they arrived at the Lizhui City. Desolate Ning and the others stepped on the air and entered. When Lu Ming arrived at the Xiao family's residence, he saw that the main entrance was already surrounded by people. I wonder why the people of the floating mountain sect have come. The leader is called Ling Kai. I've seen him before. He's Ling Yunkong's subordinate. What? Ling Yunkong? Ling Yunkong, one of the top 10 heavens favorites of the floating mountain martial school? Exclamations came from the surroundings. That's right. I heard that Ling Yunkong has taken a fancy to the Xiao sisters and wants to take them as his concubines. However, the Xiao sisters have always been against it. I guess he's here to take them away. Directly taking him away, so overbearing? Nonsense. Who is Ling Yunkong? So what if he was domineering? Who dares to resist? You're right. I heard that Ling Yunkong is a playboy. The Xiao sisters are indeed beautiful. Ling Yunkong is like a sheep entering a tiger's mouth. Lu Ming had just arrived when he heard the discussions around him. Circulating his essential core, the people in front of Lu Ming were silently pushed away by him. Lu Ming walked forward. I'm not going, I won't go even if I die. Lu Ming had just walked to the front when he heard a delicate cry. Upon hearing it, he knew it was Ah Luo's voice. Lu Ming looked forward and saw a group of young men standing in front of the Xiao family's main gate. Opposite them stood Xiao Hongyun, the sisters Ah Luo and Ah Lei. At this moment, the 2 sisters of the Xiao family were staring at the young man from the floating mountain martial school, Xiao Hongyun, and Xiao Ning with anger. Not going. It's your good fortune that Ling Yunkong has taken a fancy to you, and many girls are envious of you. How dare you not go? As long as he served young Master Ling well, he could have anything he wanted in the future. There are all kinds of cultivation resources available. Xiao Hongyun chided with a dark face. Many people in the crowd shook their heads. Xiao Hongyun's words might not be true. If he truly fell in love with the heaven's favorite of the floating mountain martial school and married him, then it would naturally be like what Xiao Hongyun had said. However, Ling Yunkong was a dissolute person by nature. He liked the new and disliked the old. If she followed him, she might not have a good ending. I said I'm not going. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Lei, let's go find Grandpa. Aaron pulled a Lei and was about to run into the Xiao family mansion. Evil creatures, what you're doing is placing the Xiao family in danger. How can I allow you to do as you please? Stop right there. Xiao Hongyun took a step forward and stood in front of the 2 sisters. A powerful aura rose from his body. With a wave of his hand, his true energy burst forth and formed a true energy cage, trapping the 2 sisters. Today, I have to go even if I don't want to. Young Master Kai, I'll leave these 2 girls to you. Xiao Hongyun looked at Ling Kai in a flattering manner. Well, these 2 little girls haven't seen much of the world. They'll be well behaved after being trained by young Master Yunkong. Ling Kai chuckled and asked for 1,000. What are you guys doing? At this moment, a loud shout came from the Xiao family. Then, a group of people followed an old man out. The old man was Xiao Zhon. After 7 days, Xiao Zhon had not fully recovered, but his aura was much stronger than 7 days ago. It was obvious that he had recovered a part of his cultivation. At this moment, Xiao Zhon was like a wild lion, staring at Xiao Hongyun with wide eyes. Grandpa. Ah Ku and Ah Lei shouted. Ah Ku, Lei, don't be afraid. Grandpa is here. After saying that, Xiao Zhan glared at Xiao Hongyun and roared, "You evil beast, they're your blood nieces, and you're in such a hurry to send them out." Chapter 997. 997 Lu Ming takes action. Father, look at what you're saying. I'm doing this for the sake of the Xiao family. Xiao Hongyun frowned. For the Xiao clan? I think you're doing this for yourself, for your son. Xiao Zhan roared. Father, Ning'er is also your grandson, Xiao Hongyun said with a frown. Grandson? I don't have to bend my knees all day, using my family to exchange for my grandson's future. Without the backbone of a martial artist, how can I have any achievements? Xiao Zhan shouted. These words made desolate Ning's face turn extremely ugly. His eyes were flashing with a fierce light. Old man, I advise you to be sensible. This time, young Master Yunkong has already said that you must take these two girls back. If you stop him, you're not giving face to young Master Yunkong and our floating mountain sect. At this moment, Ling Kai spoke, his eyes cold. Young hero, I don't have the idea of not giving face to the floating mountain martial school, nor do I dare to. However, love is a matter of mutual affection. Since my two granddaughters have no interest in young Master Yunkong, why do you have to force it? Xiao Zhan said. Feelings need to be cultivated. I'll bring them back and get along with young Master Yunkong for a while. Then, we'll have feelings for each other. Ling Kai sneered. Young Master Yunkong, can you officially marry the two girls? Xiao Zhan said. Ling Kai frowned and said coldly, Enough, old man. Who do these two girls think they are? It's already a great fortune to be able to scout young Master Yunkong, and you still want to marry him as the official wife? Are you dreaming? All right, old man, get out of the way. After saying that, Ling Kai's eyes were like lightning, and his aura was threatening. Second level of the spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Ling Kai's cultivation had already reached the second level of the spirit embryo realm. At Ling Kai's age, he was obviously a genius to be able to reach this level of cultivation. No, you are the disciples of the floating mountain martial school. Do you want to rob me? Xiao Zhan walked to the side of Aku and Lei, firmly blocking the two. Grandpa. Aku and Lei's eyes were filled with fear as they clutched Xiao Zhan's arm tightly. Zhan, Lei, don't be afraid. Grandpa is here. Xiao Zhan consoled her as a powerful aura rose from his body. Although Xiao Zhan had not fully recovered, the strength of his aura was not weaker than that of a third-level spirit embryo realm cultivator. The other disciples of the Xiao family who had followed Xiao Zhan out also stood beside him, staring at the disciples of the floating mountain martial school. Old man, it seems like you're asking for it the hard way. How dare your ant-like Xiao family go against young Master Yunkong? You're really looking for death. Ling Kai's eyes glinted coldly. He took a step forward, and the aura on his body grew stronger. Although his cultivation level was lower than Xiao Zhan's, his aura was extremely strong, and he was actually able to suppress Xiao Zhan. This was the strength of a heaven's favorite. Xiao Zhan stared at Ling Kai with a serious expression. His whole body was tense, as if he would suffer a storm of attacks from Ling Kai at any time. I'll count to 3. If you don't hand him over, I'll kill one person from your Xiao family in one breath. 3. Ling Kai said coldly. Xiao Zhan, the Xiao sisters, and the other members of the Xiao family all had ugly expressions on their faces. Ling Kai was too overbearing. 2. Ling Kai said. In the surroundings, the others were silent. This was Ling Yunkong's matter. Ling Yunkong was one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the floating mountain sect. Who would dare to interfere? The faces of Xiao Zhan and the others turned even uglier. Xiao Zhan clenched his fists but did not say anything. 1. Ling Kai uttered the word 1, and then his killing intent rose. It seems like he's not handing it over. He's looking for death. Kill him. With a wave of Ling Kai's hand, a young man beside him stepped forward and shot out like a bolt of lightning. A sword light cut through the void and stabbed at a Xiao family disciple. It was so fast that the Xiao family disciple didn't even have time to react. The next moment, everyone saw a head fly high into the air with blood spurting out. A Xiao clan disciple was killed without being able to put up any resistance. The young man from the floating mountain sect who had attacked was a first-level spirit embryo realm cultivator. No! Xiao Zhan roared like a wild lion, his eyes burning with anger. However, he was suppressed by Ling Kai's powerful aura and could not help at all. Once he made a move, our Luo and her sister would be taken away by Ling Kai. It seems like I'm not handing it over. Kill. Ling Kai's voice continued. A sword light flashed, and a blood-curdling screech was heard. Another Xiao family disciple was killed. Xiao Zhan's eyes were about to spit fire. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning stood at the side, their eyes cold and indifferent. No, don't kill us. We'll go with you. The sisters' eyes were filled with tears. At this time, our Luo shouted. No, Grandpa can't send you into the tiger's mouth. Otherwise, how can I face your parents? Xiao Zhan roared, his eyes red. Old man, I think you really want to die. Kill, continue killing, until you kill all the people of the Xiao family. I don't believe that he will dare to not hand over today. Today, I will kill him until he hands over, Ling Kai shouted, full of killing intent. Whoosh! The sword light burst out again, but this time, there was no scream, because the hand holding the sword was grabbed. A black-robed young man suddenly appeared in front of the young man from the floating mountain martial school and grabbed his wrist. Enough! The black-robed youth said coldly. Big brother Lu. Ching exclaimed. The black-robed young man was Lu Ming. Little brother Lu, let's go. This has nothing to do with you. Seeing that it was Lu Ming, Xiao Zhan didn't look happy. Instead, he told Lu Ming to leave. Lu Ming looked like he was in his 20s, and the other party was a colossal being like the floating mountain sect. Ling Yunkong was one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the floating mountain sect. Lu Ming was no match for him. He was indebted to Lu Ming and he did not want to drag Lu Ming into this. As expected, Ling Kai's eyes darkened. The young man whose wrist was being held by Lu Ming had a murderous look in his eyes. He berated, Brat, you dare to sneak attack me? You're looking for death. His essential core burst forth and a black light flashed. The young man intended to push Lu Ming away and kill him with one strike. Kachacha! Lu Ming flicked his wrist and the young man's arm twisted and trembled like a piece of dough, emitting the sound of bones breaking. He let out a blood-curdling screech and flew far away, landing heavily on the ground. He was wailing like a wild dog that was about to die. The surroundings suddenly fell silent, and many people were shocked. The youth from the floating mountain sect was not weak. He had a cultivation of the first-level spirit embryo realm. Although he could not be considered a prodigy, he was considered one of the best among the first-level spirit embryo realm. Yet, he could not even block one move from Lu Ming. Who was Lu Ming? How could he be so strong? Ah Ku and Ah Lei's small mouths were slightly open, and they were a little stunned. They had originally thought that Lu Ming's abilities were about the same as theirs, at most a little stronger. They did not expect that an expert of the first-level spirit embryo realm would be easily defeated by Lu Ming. A trace of surprise flashed through Xiao Zhan's eyes, but he still looked serious. A first-level spirit embryo realm martial artist was nothing, but Ling Kai was at the peak of the second-level spirit embryo realm and was a heaven's favorite. He was not someone that the youth from before could compare to. Brat, you dare to launch a sneak attack and injure a disciple of my floating mountain martial school. I think you've eaten the true dragon's bile. I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down, kowtow and admit your mistake. Then, destroy your own cultivation and I'll spare your life. Ling Kai said darkly. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,